the third, today being the third class. Let's go over what we've learned so far for those joining us for the first or the second. So in the first class, we went through understanding economic systems and business. So in this class, we went through branding, we went through sales, we went through how you can use technology to improve your business. Lawal Taufik from Lagos, I see you, I see you. You are most welcome. Like I was saying, the first class we learned about business strategy, learned about customer service as ways to make our business grow and have our business global. We also went through the differences between scaling and growing. We went through understanding economic systems, the socialism, capitalism, and democratic socialism. I'm really sure we all submitted our assignments because I can remember we have assignments from that class. So I know some of us might not know, but this curriculum is American based. These are things that this curriculum is encompassed with what you will learn not just in Nigeria. This is outside of Nigeria. So the second class we went through making ethical decisions and managing socially responsible business. I mean, how are you going to have a good business if your customers are not assured of your loyalty, of your economic and ethical standards? When we went through this as a way of increasing your customer loyalty, reduce your business risks. I mean, we have regulatory bodies for businesses. Different businesses have their own regulatory bodies. And to avoid being in crossfire with these people, we have to make our business align with the ethical standards that have been laid down. We also went through whistleblowing. That's when we went a little into, we're told to read about ISO 37001. That was 37001, that's bribery and corruption. ISO 37002, whistleblowing management. ISO 37003, fraud control. I know we all have gone through all of these, and I'm sure these are things, first class, second class, we can go through them over and over again because these videos are on the YouTube. If you think you're slacking in any way, just go back to the videos, watch, and get yourself appraised with what you need to know to make your business globally recognized. So today will be the third edition. I'm sure our trainer is ready to impact us with knowledge on how to compete in the global marketplace. I mean, that small business we have in our shop, that small business in our room, how are you able to, how would you be able to make it compete, not just in Nigeria, but all over the world? We all as business owners have this big image in mind. I know we all want that business to be recognized. We all want that green carpet when we go everywhere. How are you going to make this come to life? How are you going to make all these your plans, all these big dreams you have for your business? How is it going to come into mind? Sorry, before I continue, please, the attendance form has been posted in the group. Do well in the chat room, do well to click and fill in the attendance. So like I was saying, today the trainer is going to take us on how to put our business on the global scale, how to get our business global. So we're not just looking at this business being Nigeria based, you're looking at it being outside the world, in the continent. Apple started out in a garage in 1976 by Steve Jobs. And now I don't even need to tell you how global Apple is. Amazon started as an online bookstore by Jeff Bezos. Now we all know who Jeff Bezos is. In coming years, that your business that you have in your corner of your room, are we going to read about Lawal Kende and think, okay, this Lawal Kende's business that started in his room This is how far he has gone globally. Covenant, this is Covenant's business now. Jonathan, yes, Jonathan started in a small shop at one corner in Osun State, but now it's placed globally. So I would like us to just get ready to align with the trainer, and I'm sure it's going to be a very interactive class. So we're going to use the chat room a lot more. Wherever you are, wherever you're joining from, make sure you are focused, make sure you are ready, make sure you are interactive in this class. So without further ado, I see our trainer. Let's give him a round of applause in the chat room. Afis Salisu, I see you. Please, you have the floor. Take over and
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for that intro. Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody, or will I say good afternoon for people who are joining from other parts of the world as it is. Thank you very much for this opportunity once again. I see some familiar names that I mean, we're part of this session we did, I think sometime last year or so. I think I saw, hold on. I think I saw Jumoski. Yeah, Jumoski was one of the participants from one of the class I took last year. I think same as, let's say Victor too. I believe so, and Jonathan. I'm not sure, Jonathan, but I think Victor as well. I'm not sure, but of course, some names are very, very familiar. So once again, good morning, everybody, and thank you very much for joining in this joining on this particular session. This is going to be very, very interactive, like he said. I mean, the whole idea is to discuss certain things that we see around our environment. These are things that cannot be, you can't see, you don't notice it. You really can't do. I can go. Look at Jaworski. I mean, I didn't go far from you. Trust me, I'm not far away from you. I mean, like I said, these are things that we find in our immediate environment. There are things that we hear about. There are things that we see. So this is going to be very, very interactive. Please feel free to share your own experience. Feel free to also share certain information that you also know with regards to the subject matter. So thank you very much once again for having me. So I'll be sharing my screen in a bit. Give me a second. Let me put that up. Okay. Okay. Hold on. Okay. Please let me know once you can see my screen.
yes, we can see your screen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. So maybe I should just put this on presentation mode. All right. Thank you very much. So once again, good morning, everybody. Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us on this particular session. Like I said, this is going to be very, very interactive. These are things that, are things we see around us. They are things that that hardly goes unnoticed, especially when as it concerns, the global market space. There are several organizations that, started from not being known at all to what we'll call multinational companies as at today. There are organizations that nobody ever even imagined that they will come this far. Some of them started 2 years or 3 years ago, and I mean, before you know it, it's 2 years after or 3 years after, they are global. So there are certain things that obviously they are doing right that has helped them, project them in that particular space. So I mean, we're going to speak about different things, especially how some of these organizations have been able to intentionally put some certain things in place. What did they do? How, of course, some of these things are not it's not what's the word I will use now? It doesn't just happen by chance. There are certain things that they have done. Did I see somebody raise their hands? Okay, I saw a notification saying somebody raised their hands. Okay, so I mean, these are things that we've seen. We've really seen it happen. People who started 2 or 3 years ago, and of course, 2 years after or 3 years after, they are really global. There are certain things that they've done. Obviously, they have failed at some point, and then of course they came back to life. Because they've looked at no business exists right now without its own challenges, and of course it would be very, very difficult for us to say you have run a successful business without having some challenges, some difficulties, having failed at some things or the other, but the idea is for you to keep pushing. The idea is for you to be actively and consciously taking certain decisions that will help you business-wise. But of course, we'll talk about some of those things as we proceed. These are some of the things we'll be discussing today, things around global trade, why it is important, not just in the United States, but even in Nigeria and other African countries as it is, and how those things can be measured. Why do nations actually trade? What is the reason why they trade? What is the end goal? Of course, even though they trade, there's always going to be one barrier or the other that exists in international trade. There are certain things that obviously will affect the growth of certain organizations. There are certain things that will cause barriers towards one company going into another country, taking their products or their goods and services from one place to another. Some of those barriers truly exist. We also are going to look at how government and institutions foster the world trade. Of course, the World Banks, the ITFs and the likes, how they've been able to manage all of these things. We'll also be looking at the international economic communities. We'll also be looking at how companies enter global market space. What are the things that they do, things like that. What are the threats and opportunities that exist in the global market space? Of course, like I said, no business truly exists without having one challenge or the other. And of course, some people live through some of those challenges. Some, just run their business down and then they don't have any strategy towards coming back, into it anymore. Sometimes some of these things can be very, very frustrating, especially for new entrants into the market. Some people have been in the business for a while and they understand how dynamic these kind of things are, and they manage to pull through. However, some other people are very, very new. The challenges that they face, it makes two things, right? Either it makes them or it mars them, right? Either it makes them solid or it just scatters the entire thing, So we'll also be looking at the advantages of multinational corporations. And of course, everything that has advantage will obviously have disadvantage, right? So we'll talk about those things as well. What are the trends in the global market space? What are the things that people are actually doing right now? What are the things that people have done well, and then of course you can see the value, you can see the progress that they have made, you can see how well they have grown, you literally can see how everybody is mentioning their names everywhere. So we'll look at all these things, and then of course if you have questions, if you need clarity in any area, please feel free to share. All right, so let's go into it proper. Global trade in the United States, but of course this is, like I said, not just limited to the US alone. We'll also be obviously touching other areas as we proceed. So this is a very popular brand, and I believe that this is a brand that exists well, I say almost everywhere, right? It's a brand that hardly goes unnoticed. I mean, they literally are will I say, they literally define their own market space. There's this thing that I heard recently. They said you need to be so good, right? Your business needs to be so good that you define the market. What it means is that you are not looking to be the best in the market. However, you're looking to define the market. It literally means that, once you are best in the market, obviously some other person will come and want to best you, make you second best, but once you define the market, it literally now means that people follow suit, people will want to adopt some of the things that you have done. Some people will want to take some of those strategies that you've put in place and also adopt them. That way, once you have defined the market, every other person is secondary. You're so good that you don't even have competitors. You're so good that the competitors even remain or they look or seem very, very irrelevant. But these are things that people have actually done. These are things that people have actually put in place. People don't just wake up and become those things. People actually have done things, for them to be in that particular light. So obviously using something that it just happened by chance. It doesn't happen by chance. So Domino is one of the what's it called now? One of the popular brands everywhere. And of course, there's one particular case of a particular person called Mike Slater, right? From Domino Pizza. I like the fact where I can't remember his name now, where he was saying things about Jeff Bezos and other people who have started from scratch and how they have grown to what they are today. This is a similar case of this particular person. Although this person has will I say this person, Mike Slater now, he decided to franchise this particular, get a franchise license from Domino's. He actually was working as a delivery person, in Domino's Pizza. And then he now, managed to grow into the managerial role. Now, the idea really now is that this particular person, after getting the license from franchise license from Domino, he decided to, try other things, go somewhere else, with support that he got from his brother, try to invest in it to see how well he's able to expand in different places. What particularly, the beautiful thing about this particular instance is that he understands that this is a business that can thrive somewhere else. He understands that, okay, if I decide to invest in this particular business, how well will the returns come in? Obviously, no business and investment that you do will turn out 100% accurate or 100% good as you expect. It obviously will come with its challenges. Now, this guy decided to, invest in this particular thing, get the franchise license of Domino's, and then establish in a different country. Now, the challenge that he had is that he's going to he had a challenge of what's it called now, government agencies, because there is no way that you want to establish a business that is franchised in one that originally exists in one country and you want to bring it into another, and that country will just open their arms and say, okay, you know what, come and start doing this. There are certain regulations that some countries have put in place. There are certain compliance things that those in government agencies or whatnot will want to put in to confirm before you establish that business. So in Nigeria, similar thing like NAFDAC, that's like a regulatory agency that will want to checkmate some of these things to ensure that you're not just providing something that is harmful to the public. Now, these are some of the challenges that Michael Schlatter faced. Now, he had to look for a means to establish this particular business in that what's it called now, in a particular country. He had to go through regulation, which is obviously very, very challenging. Sometimes these people will tell you that, this food that you want to sell in this particular region isn't really up to the standard that is required. So there's a lot of back and forth with that. There obviously will have to be challenges that comes like getting space, and things like that. Bottom line is that this guy went through a lot. He went through a lot before he was able to establish it. And of course, after a few years, he was able to establish about 440 in that particular country as it is. So this is just to tell you that there are different things and experiences that people have. There are different challenges that people will obviously go through. And then it depends on how persistent you are. It depends on how, it depends on the kind of spirit that you have to push certain things through. If you are the type of person that, once you try it once and then you realize that it didn't work out for you, you say, oh, you know what, I'm not doing this anymore. It doesn't make sense. So there are different instances of different people also who have gone through similar hurdles. Same thing as some other organizations in Africa as well. Some people would want to, import certain food items, maybe say agricultural products from one place to the other. They obviously will face one challenge or the other, because importing something from one place to another will obviously raise eyebrows from the government, especially checkmating some of those things to ensure that you're bringing in the right thing that is not harmful to others. You're bringing in something that doesn't really affect other people in the long run. So there are several instances of different people. I have this here as something to show you. KFC, same thing. It's a multinational company as far as everybody, as far as I am concerned. So it's like a company that exists in different countries as it is. Same thing as what's it called now? Same thing as Pizza Hut. In Nigeria now, I can't remember I can't count how many they have in existence. These are some examples of other multinational companies that currently exist in Africa. Dangote is one of them as well. The idea really for multinational companies and what's it called now, businesses really, is that everybody wants to be able to start as much as they want to grow big. You obviously will start at a particular point, start small, and of course try as much as possible to see how you can satisfy the market that you currently are, and then see how you can expand to wherever you want to expand to. Dangote obviously didn't start big, he obviously didn't start big. He started from a particular small place. He got loans from, I think his dad or somebody. He got a loan, and then he was able to establish, and then he was able to grow. Right now, I think the number of African countries that Dangote is in right now, is a lot, different offices, different, and of course, as it is like that, Dangote has, it's a group, so there's the Dangote cement, there's the salt, there's this and that, so the idea really is to be able to see how best you're able to position yourself, and then understanding the dynamics around business in the international space, and then how you're also able to satisfy some of the compliance regulations that exist in those countries. So there are so many of them that exist as of today, and all of them have similar challenges that they face. some people are more experienced than the others. Some are newbies, like I said. Some are already, they are into that particular business, and of course, they've mastered how to overcome some of those hurdles. But of course, let's look at why important. Sorry, I don't know. This is blocking my view. Hold on, please. Can I move this? Okay, let me bring it down. Okay, so let's look at global trade and its importance in the United States and how it is measured. Once again, we're not just looking at the United States as it is. You agree with me that global trade is something that's common. Everybody talks about it. Everybody does it one way or the other. If I'm providing one particular service in Nigeria, as I am, and I'm servicing a group of people in a different country, it is still regarded as a global trade. Anything that exists between one country and the other, or exists between one country and multiple countries, is referred to as a global trade. Obviously, the what's it called now? The opposite of that would be you doing your business in a particular space or within a particular country. Now, this is really important for all countries, because there are so many reasons why people do this. One, it has to be with you increasing your GDP as it is. As the company, or as a company, you obviously want to see how you can obtain more market share. As a business too, you want to see how you can expand your business, gain more profit as it is. As a country, people do this because they also want to see how they can provide more job opportunities, things like that. So this is not something that people just do because they just want to do it. There's a need somewhere, and then of course somebody is trying to meet that particular need. The global trade really, really is important in every country, because every country wants to be able to see how they can satisfy a need that currently exists. Some countries are battling with unemployment. It is only when you do things like global trade that you are able to attract investors, and then they invest, and then they provide things like job opportunities for your citizens, right? For a business, the reason why you're expanding is because of one of two things. Either you want to make profit, or you want to just expand and obtain more market share. The reason why MTN is in Nigeria right now is not because they just want to be in Nigeria. It's because they want to also expand and get as much market share as they can. Of course, they want to also make profit while doing that. So this is something that is very, very important. This is something that people actually do, because it's a way to progress, a way for them to expand as it is. So, one of the importance of the global business today in the United States, obviously, is to see how they can increase their GDP as it is, see how they can increase job opportunities as it is. As it is today now, US as it is now have or are in partners with other countries as at today: China, Canada, Mexico, Japan. There are so many countries that they do business with. And of course, this business obviously is, that kind of you scratch my back, I scratch your back kind of thing. Everybody is in it to make profit. Some other people are in it, just to make certain, to make peace, with one another. However, in recent times, you realize that Trump right now is now putting a lot of, he gave an executive order, I think in February. I think it was February, increasing the tariffs from other neighbor, partner countries, China, Mexico, things like that. The trade really exists between these countries. It's important. They can't really do without another. As of today, US is one of the countries that does a lot of imports. Of course, they do exports too, but they do a lot of importation. I don't think the United States as of today can do without importation. If the United States decides that they want to close their border now, it's not like they don't have domestic products or goods and services within that particular country to service them. But they really wouldn't do without. They honestly can't do without it, because there are certain things, certain commodities, certain services that even they in the United States cannot service that particular industry or those particular people as it is. There are lot of services that they actually require as at today. Same thing in the African space. Nigeria is partners, or does business with other African countries, Ghana, like that, South Africa as it is. Importing and exporting one particular product or the other. Really, one country cannot do without doing business with others. Even the North Korea as at today that choose to say they are locking their borders, they don't want to have anything to do with one country or the other, they still import certain things. Certain things are very, very crucial to their living, their way of living. So you really can't take that. You really can't take that out. It might be training related services. It might be goods and goods itself. It might be, it might be anything. So you really can't say that one country wants to just do business internally and then not associate with other countries. I think if you decide to do that, you'll just be left in the dark, and then you obviously will look like what's it called? The country isn't growing, businesses are not progressing, like that. So this is really, really important for all countries as of today, not just the United States. I mean, everybody wants to gain one thing or the other as it is from international trade. I mean, so international trade obviously has one issue or the other that obviously comes with it, right? So what's it called now? There's always one impact or the other that might affect international trade. One of the biggest is the impact of terrorism on global or international trade. We all remember the 9/11 that happened, I think in 2001. Yeah, 2001, where I mean, a lot of businesses were affected in the United States. One plane just went through one particular, came into the country and then affected, bombed a lot of buildings and then affected most citizens as it is. So there are so many things that exist. Once you are able to allow certain things to happen within your country, there are barriers that happen. There are certain risks that comes in, by, providing an opportunity for your country to do business with other people. There are certain things that, once you don't give room for it, you obviously will not have some of these threats that might be affecting your business as it is. So certain things happen, certain businesses or misfortune happens when, once you open your borders and allow businesses to allow companies or organizations to do businesses outside that particular region as it is. But like I said, this is not going to be a boring class as we're discussing. I would like to also hear certain feedback from you. One of the things that really, really exists in Nigeria, I mean, I like to use Nigeria the most because, I mean, this is where we are, right? One of the biggest, what's it called now? One of the biggest threats in the Nigerian space right now that happens because of global trade is terrorism as well, because once you open your borders to different countries, there are so many things that can be smuggled in. Those things that are smuggled in obviously affect how your own country operates. That obviously will affect how you also do business as it is. Obviously, these are things that not that, they obviously wouldn't want to just bring it in the open. It's something that will be smuggled among maybe somebody who just bought, timber from one particular country and is trying to bring it in. What they will do is to hide maybe some of these rifles and whatnot inside some of those things and then ship it into your own country. You wouldn't know. I mean, it's a very, very difficult thing to be able to identify some of those things that are, shipped in. But of course, the regulatory agencies are doing a lot to curb out some of those things. But how many can you do as at today? How many can you do? There's also the fact where, people shipping cocaine, like that. This is one of the reasons why Trump as at today is laying sanctions on China, is it Mexico and Cuba, some of those countries, because of some of the hard drugs that are brought into that particular country. Now, what Trump is saying is that, because your country has not found a way to reduce how it brings hard drugs into the United States, I'm increasing the tariffs of your own country doing business with the United States. So it now means that whatever product that maybe Mexico or Cuba is supplying United States, a higher tariff has been increased. He had to increase it about 10% or 20% as at today, which is not a very, very nice thing for other businesses outside that particular country. My point is that it is when you open your borders to do business with other people that certain illegal things come into that particular country. You really cannot. It's very, very difficult for you to control how some of those things, how some of those countries, and no country is in exception. It comes in. It's only your security, your policies and things that you have put in place that will help reduce those things. Now, as a means of retaliation, I think China also, because that tariff that Trump has put also affected China. Now, China in their own, as a means of retaliation, have decided to increase their tariff for products and services that US is importing from China. it's a very, very dicey, it's a very, very funny, it's a very, very funny, it's a very, very funny world, right? Because everybody's trying to increase tariffs, and then one person is trying to protect their country, another person is also trying to protect their country. But the bottom line really is that every country is trying as much as possible to see how, they are able to curb out, reduce the impact of these kind of businesses to their own country as it is. So as much as they're trying as much as possible to see how they can increase revenue, increase GDP, provide job opportunities for other people, you really can't fight all of these things. You really can't stop. You really can't stop. You can only reduce the challenges, or you can really reduce the threat that comes with it, but you can't totally take them. You can't totally take them out. There are so many examples that we could bring. The hard drugs are is one of it. The terrorism is another part of it. There are so many negativities, negative things that come through with the use of by allowing international trade between countries. So there are certain things also that we also will discuss. There are so many components within this particular course that we will discuss. There are things that countries do also by measuring trade between nations, how country measure the trade that exists between them. There are so many things that they do in order to measure those things. The idea really for them is to see how well they can raise revenue, by find a way to curb out or reduce unemployment. One of the biggest things that in Africa that we suffer the most is unemployment. So it is only when investors come into your country that they decide to now invest, and then they are able to reduce the unemployment rate. You also understand that, for a business person, if you also want to do a business outside the country, as much as you're trying to do and you're trying to make profit, right? There are certain things that you also will have to put into consideration as much as you're trying to make profit. As you're going into that country, remember that it is not only your own staff from your own original country that you employ in the other country. You have to employ certain people, domestic, what's it called now, local staff within that particular country. So as much as you're doing business, you're also creating opportunities for people in the other country. So there are certain things, that plays, that happens during the course of doing business or doing international trade as it is. There are certain, like I said, there are certain components that we will look at, some of which are, export and import, balance of trade, balance of payment, changing value of currency. There are so many components that exist as at today. All countries do this, import, export, all countries do this, but there are certain countries that are well known for doing one thing or the other. Other countries do one thing best than the other. So just to throw this to the house, right? Just to throw this to the house. What do you think Nigeria exports the most, and what do you think for the Nigerian students that we have, what do you think Nigeria exports the most, and what do you think we import the most? For other African countries too, we could also use examples of other African countries too. What do you think one African country exports that another African country does not have enough that they export? So let's just make this very, very interactive so that it doesn't just feel like I am the one doing all the talking. Once again, this is something that happens in our environment. These are things that happen around us. These are things that we notice. These are things that we see around. So what are the things that you think Nigeria exports the most? If not Nigeria, maybe Cameroon, maybe Kenya, maybe Egypt, Sudan, what are the things that you think one country are known for exporting the most, and what are the things that other countries are known for importing the most as it is? I know for Nigeria, Nigeria export a lot of cashew. There's a lot happening around there, the cashew nuts, especially because it is used for aviation fuel, right? There are tons of things that Nigeria exporters are today. So please, if you're on the call, what are the things that Lawal, I see your hands up. Please go ahead. Yeah, Lawal, I see your hands up. You can unmute. I think you're muted. Okay, so I want to believe, Lawal, I don't know if that was accidentally, your hand was accidentally raised. But of course, we can use the chat room too. What are some of the things that you think we export the most?
I can talk. I can talk.
Hi, Lawal, I can hear you
I
now.
can talk now. Yeah, good morning. I think what we export most is now brain drain, human resources. human
Human
resources.
resource.
Yes,
Okay. I like
in
that.
terms of
I like that. The rate of attrition, right? I like that. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
yes.
Thank you. Some other person, please. Yeah, I see Lawan. We import virtually everything. Rashid, crude oil in Nigeria. Absolutely. Absolutely. What countries do you think export a lot of let me think of something. Cocoa. Yeah, cocoa. That's a very difficult question. What country do you think export a lot of cocoa? Ghana. Yeah, you're right. Ghana does a lot of that as well. In fact, Nigeria does a lot of that too. Cameroon too, Cameroon does a lot of that as well. Okay, so how about okay, so let's look at what other services again can I look at? Okay, I think Nigeria is what of course, yes, we do a lot of agricultural product as well. Yeah, we do a lot of agricultural product. And in fact, I like the fact where Lawal also mentioned things about human resource because, of course, with the rate of attrition that is happening right now, I do not think that in the last 3 years, other African countries have done a lot of that than Nigeria. I do not think so. I think the rate of human resource that have gone out of this country, I mean, is enough to create a country on its own. It's enough to create a country on its own. So that can also be categorized as an export, right? That can also be categorized as an export. What do you think will I say import now? Because in Nigeria, I mean, we literally, like you said, we literally import almost everything, down to toothpicks, right? Down to toothpicks, So and the funny thing, right? The funny thing now is that it's not like we do not produce some of these things internally within the country. We produce some of these things, but you know how people tag, foreign items that are brought in as more quality than the Nigerian products, even though some Nigerian products are more quality than the others that are imported, But bottom line is that there's a lot of export and import that is happening. And of course, the rate at which that happens affects countries positively or negatively, right? If you import a lot, it affects your country. If you import a lot, it affects your own country. And that will bring us to certain things that we'll discuss called things called balance of payment, balance of trade. Those are things that truly measures how a country exports and imports goods and services. So the export and import, I mean, these are terms that are not very new to us. These are terminologies that we hear almost every day. Export is you just taking one product or services from one country or from your country to another country. Import is when you're bringing certain products and services from one country into your own country. Now, there are several things that currently exist now. The import and export, like we have earlier established, it doesn't really have to do with products. It can be services. It can also be the fact that your country just does a lot of coupling. Once they do the coupling, they can take that finished product out to another country. Now, that is a form of export or import as well, because you're sourcing materials from one particular country, and then you're coupling in your own country, and then you're taking the finished product to another country. I mean, that's another form of what's it called now? That's another form of a proper global trade that exists. So an example is what we call the maquiladoras. Right? This is another instance where some organizations or some countries decide that what we want to do is to be able to bring in parts from one country into another, from one country into our country, put those parts together, let's say for instance to create a car or to make a car or something like that, put those components that we imported from different countries together, and then we now ship that finished product that we've put together into another country. So it's just like saying you're buying parts from one country, and then the whole that you've put together, you're not exporting it to another country. So that's another very beautiful form of international trade that exists. This particular form of international trade is something that I wouldn't say most, but most producing countries actually do something like this. They actually will try as much as possible to adopt this by buying a lot of import parts from, let's say, from maybe Asian countries, and then put those things together, couple it together, and then maybe ship out those final products to other countries. So, like I said, export and import is something that exists right now. I mean, it's a common terminology, something that we all know as at today. I was saying something about balance of trade, right? I was saying something about balance of trade. The balance of trade really is about, seeing how well you're able to balance your exports and your imports. Now, this literally is now saying that, as a country, you can export a lot of things. You can also import a lot of things. Now we're looking at these things now, not just only on a country level. There are two ways to look at this. You can look at it from the country level. You can also look at it what I'm talking about now is the global trade, right? You can look at it from the country level. You can also look at it from a normal business person's perspective. However, there are certain things under the global international trade that you cannot really associate to a particular company or organization. It's mostly associated to a country. Say, for instance, now, export-import, can be associated between one particular country, particular company to another. You can as well associate it between one particular country and another. These are two different this thing now. You can associate it as a company or a country. Now, balance of trade in this instance is a component of global trade that cannot really be associated as a company, but as a country, because it measures how much a country exports and it imports. Now, in Nigeria, let me ask, because I ought to believe that we have most Nigerians here on this call. In Nigeria, what do you think is the highest? Do you think we have more balance of? Okay, so because the balance of trade in itself is of two categories, right? It's either you have a favorable balance of trade or you have an unfavorable balance of trade. Now, what this means now is that for a favorable balance of trade, it means that you've done a lot of exports and you did a little import. Now that means that you have a lot of gross domestic product, meaning you've increased your GDP by exporting a lot, gain foreign currencies, and then imported just a few things, which means that you paid for very little and you exported more. Now, for unfavorable, now means that you are importing a lot, but you are not a producing country. Excuse me. You are importing a lot, but you're not a production company, or you're not a producing country, rather. And you are exporting very, very little. So in the Nigerian space or in the African space, what countries do you think does a lot of balance of trade, has a lot of favorable balance of trade? And what countries do you think have a lot of unfavorable balance of trade? Now, the easiest way for you to know is by a company or a country's economy, right? Is by you knowing how much business a country does in a particular period of time. Remember also, this balance of trade thing now is something that is done usually within 1 year. Now, a country measures its export or its import just within 1 year, because you can't accumulate the export that one country has done over 10 years and, you're trying to balance it with the import that has done over 10 years. It just doesn't make sense. So usually what is being used is they use 1 year as a basis, right, to measure the amount of export and the amount of imports that countries have done. Now, let's come back to some of the countries in the African space. In Nigeria today, do you think Nigeria has a favorable balance of trade or an unfavorable balance of trade? Again, I've asked the question. In Nigeria today, do you think we have a favorable balance of trade or an unfavorable balance of trade? Now, remember the difference between the two. The favorable is when we have a lot of exports and we do a lot of import, a lot of exports and little imports. Unfavorable is a lot when we do a lot of import. We import almost everything, and then the export is very, very little. So what do you think? What do you think? Do we do a lot of exports and little import, or a lot of import and few exports? Covenant, nice to have you. Please go ahead. Please feel free to respond. You can put your answers in the chat room, please, just in case you're the shy type too. You're the shy type and don't want to speak. In Nigeria, do you think we have a lot of balance of trade surplus or deficit? Because surplus is when it's favorable, deficit is when it is negative or unfavorable. We have an unfavorable balance of trade. Laura, thank you. We import more than export. Okay, that's one opinion. Jimoski also, we import more even. No, I don't believe so. I don't believe you, Jimoski. Okay, let's get a response from others. Excuse me. Do you think we have a lot of, do you think we have a favorable balance of trade or an unfavorable balance of trade? Elizabeth, thank you. Thank you very much. We have a very okay, thank you very much. I'd like to hear from Michael too. I think Michael was one of the participants from the last class I took sometime. I think that was last year. So Michael, hi, how's it going? Let me hear from you as well. You can put your answers in the chat room. Lamidi, hi, Abigail. Yes, of course. These are familiar names that I know. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I'd like to hear from you as well. Glory, let me hear from you, please. Awesome, awesome, awesome. Rashid, yeah, names that I know. Please put your answers in the chat room. Do you think we have a favorable or an unfavorable balance of trade? Okay, okay. Awesome. I agree with you, Lawal. I agree with you, 100. Mhm. Jonathan, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to also mention to you that, right, it's important that we also understand that now the trade that are being measured, right, it's not just goods, right? It can be services. So now a combination of all the goods and services is what you will measure. I hope you're not getting it wrong. Now, that means that if we want to calculate I like maths a bit. If we want to measure, what's it called now? The balance between favorable and unfavorable. It means that for you to calculate the export, you are adding services, you are adding goods, you are adding whatever products that you are exporting. In terms of import, you are adding services too that you import. Services can be training too, remember. You're adding goods as well that you buy. You're adding other things as well. So in Nigeria as of today, some people will argue, right? Some people will argue that we have a lot of we have unfavorable balance of trade. Others will argue that we have favorable balance of trade. But of course, one of the easiest way to know, is to get information online or something like that. However, from research, it has shown that in Nigeria, the last time Nigeria has an unfavorable balance of trade was in 2011. Will you believe that? Can you believe that? Can you believe that? So the last time Nigeria has an unfavorable balance of trade was in 2011. And that means that Nigeria had a loss of about $13 billion. No, $13 trillion actually. 13 trillion. So the last time Nigeria had an unfavorable balance of trade was in 2011. Now, remember that the way this thing is being calculated is that the services that are provided, the goods that you export, the services that you export, the goods that you export, the other products that you export, are things that are calculated vis-a-vis the services that you import. I don't know if Nigeria imports a lot of services. I honestly don't know. Maybe training related, maybe professional services, maybe some other things. I don't know. The products, of course, I know we import a lot of products. We import a lot of goods as well. So, but from I think there was a what's the name of this body now? They call them the CIC or something like that. They were the one who measured it to say, okay, you know what? The last time this actually existed or happened was in 2011, where the negative that they had was about $13.9 trillion or something like that, which is to say that Nigeria actually overspent in providing actually overspent in importing than exporting. Let me also surprise you to also know that in the United States as of today, the last time United States recorded a favorable balance of trade from research was about in 1997 or so. That was the last time what's it called now? They registered a favorable balance of trade, which is to say that the United States does a lot of imports. They do a lot of imports. Now, this doesn't now mean that the imports that they do, despite it overshadowing their exports, affects their economy in a way. Of course, it's supposed to affect their economy, but this is a very, very dicey economy, because sometimes they don't just rely on just the import and export that they do in order to boost or stabilize their economy. There are so many things that organizations, countries do in order to stabilize the economy as it is, so it doesn't necessarily mean that it affects the economy in a way, but the last time that they recorded something like that was in 1975 or something like that. So, but there are different countries have either favorable or unfavorable. Some African countries have a lot of unfavorable balance of trade, but remember that it is not just what you see that is being calculated. There are so many things that are put into place, for us to get or for them to get to that particular conclusion as it is. So different countries have different balance of trade. They get different, what's it called now? or they either get surplus or they get deficit as it is. Sometimes, I mean, what's it called now? What's it called now? Some Asian countries obviously have a lot of they have a lot of favorable balance of trade because they do a lot of exports, especially countries like China, India. Oh, they do a lot of, you agree with me, they do a lot of exports than imports. You know, right now I don't think there's a country that Indians or Chinese have not, they literally do not dominate with their product or services. You really cannot find a country that exists as of today that their product or services are not overshadowing some of the domestic products and services of that particular country. Well, I mean, if you tell me North Korea, maybe I wouldn't be surprised. If you tell me maybe North Korea, maybe I wouldn't be surprised, you know. So, but of course, that's the things about balance of trade. I don't want to overflow this, you know, so that we don't take so much time. There's also something very, very, I mean, similar to this that is called balance of payment, right? It's also a very, very similar concept in international trade. Balance of payment now in this now means something around receipts, the actual money you pay for those products and services that you export or you import. Now, they measure this as well within 1 year. You know, it's either you have a favorable balance of payment or you have an unfavorable balance of payment. Now, you know, if you have a favorable balance of payment, now means that you have a lot of money that has come in for your country. If you have an unfavorable balance of payment, it now means that you have paid a lot to other countries. You know, so there are different things to this concept. There are different things that we as business students or entrepreneurs we should be able to understand. These are concepts that, you know, ideally, you know, you shouldn't be new to you. There are things that actually happen within your environment, and you should know how some of those things can affect your business as it is. Now, in the instance where a country has an unfavorable balance of payment or an unfavorable balance of trade, it now means that, you know, there's a lot of import that has happened, which now means that it literally affects some of the job opportunities that exist in that particular country. You know that when you import a lot of things into your country, it literally kills the working population of your country, because everybody is relying on imported goods, and then nobody is trying to actively produce something that can be sold nationally. I don't know if what I'm saying makes sense to you, because these are certain things that affect countries. And of course, we'll talk about some of those things as we proceed. You know, we'll talk about some of those things as we proceed. So that these are concepts that we should be familiar with. We should be able to understand what these things mean and how they will affect us. It is important that, you know, we explain some of these things, you know, as much as you are a company that wants to do business outside your country. And I think it's also very, very wise to be able to understand some of this terminology, some of this concept, so that when you begin to hear some of these things, you don't start to fidget, you don't start to fear that something will affect your own company as it is. There's something called the changing value of currency as well. Now, what this literally means is that you're measuring your own country's currency with other countries' currency. Now, which means in a typical, what's this called? In a typical instance, now you're measuring maybe dollar to euro. Obviously, one is higher than the other. You're measuring dollar to naira. You're measuring dollar to CFA. You're measuring dollar to Kenyan shillings. You know, you're measuring dollar to, you know, let's say yen, or, you know, all of these things. So now the thing now is that one country has some countries have dominance, especially in terms of their currency, which means it's more stronger than others. Other countries have very, very weak currencies, you know, where before you buy one particular item, you need to carry a wheelbarrow to carry the currencies up and down from one destination to the other. You know, there are some of those things that happen because of how poor the currencies are, you know. So, but it's important that, you know, as business students, we also understand the difference between these currencies and how it can also affect our business. Something exists in Nigeria today. There's something called the floating of the naira. So, which means that because of how the value of the naira has dropped, you know, the federal government decided that, you know what, let's leave the naira to float. Now, I'm not saying that we should put it on water or put it inside the stream or river. No, this literally means that you are allowing the market determine what naira should be. Buying and selling will determine how much naira is. If you buy a lot of Nigerian products and Nigeria sells a lot of Nigerian products, those buying and selling will determine how much naira will be as compared to other currencies. Before now, you realize that the naira was pegged to the dollar by 500 by the CBN. The CBN pegged naira 500 naira to $1. You agree with me? In fact, before now, it wasn't even 500 naira. I think it was, I mean, a long time ago, maybe 100, 150, you know, a long time ago. And then it started to change. CBN started changing it, and then it was pegged to 500 naira to $1. But right now, you agree that it's about 1,700, But they decided to peg the naira. They decided to float the naira in 2023, so that the forces of demand and supply will determine how much the naira will be. If people export a lot of Nigerian products, then of course the naira will become stronger, right? If we import a lot of other countries' products into our country, then of course you agree that the naira becomes even weaker, right? So forces of demand and supply will determine how strong the naira will be, and that is what floating means. Now, like I said, some countries would decide to peg their currency to a stronger currency. Some countries decide to say, okay, like for instance, now Cameroon has decided to peg their CFA to the euro, right? They decided to peg it to about, I think, 617 naira or 650 or 16 naira, thereabout, So one CFA is about, so one euro is about 675, I think 660 CFA, thereabout, So one country can decide to peg their currency to another, just like the way Nigeria decided to peg the naira to $1 before it was now changed to a floated listing. There are certain countries that do the similar thing. So as of today, Egypt is one of the countries that are floating their currency. As of today, Kenya is one of the countries that floats their currency. Before now, Nigeria used to peg their currency to another country's currency. Cameroon, they peg it also to the euro. So there are different African countries. There are other even European countries that peg their own currency to the dollar as well, to euros as it is. So these are things that we also should be able to we're supposed to be familiar about. These are things that we should know, so that, once you're doing business with one particular country or the other, you also understand that forces of demand and supply can also affect the naira as it is, So I think it's also very, very important that we understand how some of those things what some of those things mean. Now, there's also something called the devaluation of naira, which means that you're lowering your naira, or your currency rather, what they say naira. Something called devaluation of your currency, meaning that you are reducing the value of your own currency to a lower value, because you want to be able to attract investors. You want to be able to make that environment juicy for other people to come and do business in. You're also trying to see how much you can, ensure that you provide job opportunities for your people, but there is no action that does not have consequences. Now, if you devalue your naira, there are certain things that come into play, right? Once you devalue it now means that people start doing things they call dumping. Dumping means that they start bringing certain things and just leaving your country. People just bring some things that might be harmful to your country. So many things start to happen, because there is more or less things that they call show free. Everybody wants to just take advantage of what you have done, but there are certain strategies and its effects or consequences. There are other things that also, when it happens, it doesn't really make a difference. So it's important, once again, that we understand what this means and how it affects us, affects our business. Now, a very, very important thing. Why do you think nations trade? Really, why do we think countries trade? I think I've said this a few times, right? I think it makes sense for me to also hear from you guys from the in the chat room. Why do you really think countries do business? Why do you think nations trade? Why do you think nations exchange either goods for goods, or goods for money, or services for money? Why do you really think that happens? Why do you think that happens? Now, you can look at it from a business perspective or a company's perspective, or you can look at it from a country's perspective. Why do you really think an international trade exists? Question to the house. Why do you think nations trade, or why do you think people do international trade as it is? Why do you think we trade? Really? Why do you think? Answers in the chat room. Rashid. I see my people. Covenant, Elizabeth. Why do you think countries do international trade? Really? What is the end goal? What are they trying to get at the end of the day? Why do you think nations trade? Production variance. Awesome. Thank you. Josefu Aminu. This is a very familiar name. It's a very familiar name. I'm not sure if you're part of the class for last year, but it's a very familiar name. Rashid, I don't think no country is in us. Absolutely, I agree with you, Rashid. Absolutely. I agree with you, Rashid. More responses. Why do you think nations trade? Really? Why do you think they trade? Why do you think they go into business? Why do nations trade? What do they want to get at the end of the day? Is there a target? Is there something that they're trying to achieve? Do they have a limitation in one area on the other to gain forex? I agree with you, Jonathan. I totally agree with you, 100%. I totally agree with you. Why do you think nations trade? Where's Abigail? That's true. Where's Abigail? Is she out of the class? Let's see. I can't find her. Maybe Abigail's not here. I see Abigail. Yes, now. Abigail, why do you think nations trade? I haven't heard from you in a while. Resources in the world are unevenly distributed. Yes, absolutely. Difference in demand. Oh, yes. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. So, I mean, it's not far-fetched from what we've all said. It's really not far from it. There are so many reasons why nations decide that they want to do business with other countries. One, either because they want to be able to increase the GDP of the country. Like somebody said, no country is obviously in isolation. You can't decide that you want to do things without importing one particular thing or the other into your country. It might probably be because of providing opportunities for your citizens. That happens. Now, one of the reasons why our president sometimes decides to invite investors is because we also want to find a way to provide job opportunities for other people. So, for instance, now, if a multinational company comes to establish in Nigeria, who do you think will be the higher population in that particular business? Obviously, it will be the locals. It will be the Nigerian citizens that will be, of course, other foreign staff will probably be at the managerial level. Of course, some local staff also will be at the managerial level, but the dominant people in that particular business will be the locals, which is very, very important. One of the reasons why nations also trade is because they want to meet a particular need or the other. There are certain issues or limitations that some countries currently have, but once they do business with other countries, that need is obviously met. They are able to satisfy their need, they are able to meet that particular challenge that they are currently facing. So, like I said, it's not far-fetched from what everybody had mentioned. Some countries produce other things, some things more than others. Some countries are specialists in the production of certain things. Other countries are known to provide better services than other countries. So nations decide to do all of these things because, of course, they are trying to meet a need, satisfy what's it called now, citizens, or in a business sense, trying to solve one problem or even make profit. Sometimes you want to probably expand your business as it is. So, there are several ways to look at them. There are several ways to look at this. Now, there are certain concepts also that we look at during this conversation, right? There are certain concepts that we also will look at in the reasons why nations trade. Sometimes it's because some countries want to have absolute advantage. Now, this literally means that, you produce certain products produce certain products better than other products within your own country. Now, this means that, let's say, for instance, in our country now, we produce a lot of, cashew nuts, which is harvested from planting cashews, and things like that. Now, it's likely that we have other products that we produce rather and export. However, the cashew nuts are things that we have in abundance. We are specialists in doing this, and it's best for us to be able to provide this particular service to other countries than other products that we have. Not that we don't have other products internally that we can produce. However, we produce this more than others. And because we produce this more, we even produce it in a more efficient way. Now, this doesn't now mean that other countries will not produce this too. It's possible that other countries produce this. However, ours is produced in the most efficient way, meaning we do not spend a lot of money producing this particular product or services that we are exporting to other countries. Now, countries decide to do business because they have absolute advantage, meaning they have the resource, excuse me, meaning they have maybe human resource, maybe they have a lot of, what do you call it now? They have a lot of material resources, maybe other forms of resources that they have way more than other countries. Now you realize that in Nigeria and other popular populous nations. Now, one of the advantages they have is the human resource. Nigeria, as of today, it has a lot of human resource, especially in the production of certain things. Now, if there's a particular product that we are producing and we have a lot of people to be able to put their hands towards producing that particular thing, the advantage that Nigeria will have towards bringing that particular product to a lower cost is going to be an absolute advantage, because we have a lot of people that we use. Say, for instance, farming. We have a lot of people who can do farming now, who actually does farming. There are certain things that we can export because we have a lot of resources doing that. Other countries can do that too, but they might not be able to do it as efficient as Nigeria. So there's also something called a comparative advantage. Now, this is also saying that it's likely that you also have other products that you're also producing. You probably have 2 or 3 that your country is known for exporting. However, there's one that you do better. There's one that you even do better than the others. So it now means that it is better for you to export the ones that you do better and then import the ones that you do not do better. Say, for instance, now as in Nigeria, we probably produce cashew, we have cotton, let's say we have animal feeds. Just an example, right? We have cashew, we have cotton, we have animal feeds. Let's say in Nigeria right now, we produce a lot of cashew nuts than the cotton and animal feeds. Now, it now means that if we now have other countries that produce cotton and animal feeds, it is likely that we should buy actually, because this is what this concept is saying, that we should buy from countries that produce cotton and animal feeds more than us, because they have actually produced these things in a more efficient way. Meaning that if we are selling cashew nuts to them, we should buy their cotton and their, and their animal feeds, because they produce it at a very, very cheaper rate than we do. I hope I'm not confusing you. I hope I'm not confusing you now. What this comparative advantage is saying is that if you produce one particular thing better than others, the ones that you do not produce better, it's best for you to import them from other countries. Now, that's what this concept is literally just saying. It's best for you to export what you produce the best and then import the ones that you don't do best. That's literally what the comparative advantage is literally just saying. So there are certain things that some countries will sometimes choose to ignore. Say, for instance, now, because they want to promote infant industries, it is likely that you choose to say, okay, you know what, I don't want to even buy these products from other countries because I know I have local industries or local companies that do this. Now, that act is also called protectionism, meaning you're trying to protect your infant companies or industries because you don't want the importation of other products or services from other countries to hinder the business that you're trying to boost within your own nation or within your own country. So there are so many concepts to these things that we're supposed to, advise that we should be able to know. One of the things that helps also as business students or economic students is for us to be able to understand where can we take advantage, what business can we take advantage in other countries, how are we supposed to take advantage of this. So if you realize that there are certain countries that, they don't have a lot of these things happening, we can also obviously think about those things and then provide some of those services for those countries. If we realize that there's a limitation somewhere, we can obviously take advantage. And that is one of the things that Dangote has actually actively done. Dangote is somebody who has, invested his business in other neighboring countries. He has his cement factory in other countries within the African space. This is an opportunity that he has seen, because also I believe they also have raw materials that he also wants to take advantage. He wants to take advantage of. But as he's taking advantage of that, he's also providing, job opportunities for locals within that particular region. Now, he has noticed that there's a limitation somewhere, and he as a business person has taken advantage of that, thereby expanding his own business as well. So this is a very, very dynamic business concept that, it makes sense that we are consciously, aware of, and then as business students, we're able to take advantage of some of those things. If you notice that there's a limitation somewhere, of course, you're always able to invest in those areas and then see value from it at the end of the day. Once again, none of these services exist without these challenges. Now, one of the challenges that Dangote must have also faced during this particular expansion is obviously, there's going to be a policy for him within that region to state that 80% of his staff will be locals, which is very, very important, because nobody will obviously let you establish your own business in their country, and then you now have over 70% of foreigners in that country, in that business. It just doesn't make any sense. No country will allow that. Now, aside that, there's always going to be a policy also that states that there has to be locals also who will be at managerial positions. If you realize that the locals there are not very smart enough to be able to run your business for you, then you have no choice than to comply, because it is one of the policies that the country must have put in place. There are so many things, so many dicey situations that, multinational companies will have to manage. Also, in the instance where companies are just trying to establish in new countries, there are certain things that you need to be able to take advantage of. For instance, now you are trying to establish a restaurant. Let's not even say restaurant, because we talked about KFC and the rest earlier. Let's say you're trying to establish a new business that you currently do in your own country, in another country. Now, there is no way that you expect or assume that you know that business, that region better than a local. It is not done anywhere. Now, you need to take advantage or have a partner in that particular country because of the business, how business is being run in that particular country. You can't assume that the way it works in your own country, it works also in that other country. It is very, very wrong for you to assume that, right? So it makes sense to be able to take advantage of some of the locals within that particular region. And then, of course, challenges will obviously come, but it's now how you're able to manage your way around them, around that. Yeah, so I had to, divert a bit to speak about other things. So let's go on. Other concept also, why nations trade as well is the fear of trade and globalization. Somebody was saying something about no country operating in isolation. Yeah, some countries decide that they want to be isolated, because of certain threats or some of the challenges that comes with international trade. Now, remember that once you decide that you want to do international trade, or you want to, globalization wants to happen, or it's happening, right? That one of the issues that you obviously will have is that there won't be a lot of what's it called now, local companies that would grow, because obviously it would obviously affect how local companies grow. Say for instance, now you do a lot of you allow a lot of companies to come and what's it called now, you allow a lot of companies to come and invest in your own country, meaning that they establish.
All right, everyone. Please, let's be patient while we try to get him back on the call. I think network has knocked him out. Please exercise patience while we get him back on the call. Thank you.
My apologies, everyone. My internet just glitched and affected the whole thing. Kindly confirm if you can still hear me, please. Am I still audible, please?
Yes, we can hear you.
Apologies for that. My internet just glitched and just went off. So please let me share my screen again. Bring it up. Please confirm once you can see my screen, so that I'm sure that I'm not assuming that it is up. Please confirm once you can see my screen. Okay, Temita, I want to believe that is a confirmation that you can see my screen.
Hafiz, please try to reshare. It was buffering and had not shown. So try to reshare and let's see. Hafiz, are you there? Okay, obviously, his network is really acting up. So please exercise little more patience while he tries to sort that out.
Hi, everybody. I've decided to switch my internet, so that we don't keep experiencing that again.
Oh, great, great, great.
So I just switched my internet now, hoping that this will be more stable and wouldn't affect things. Okay, so let me share my screen. Give me a second. Yeah. Please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes, I can see your screen now.
You can see your screen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, so let's see. Okay, minimize this. Then, all right. So one of the things I was mentioning earlier is that, the reasons why most countries, are worried about going into globalization is because of, a few things. Once again, one of the challenges that comes with is the threats that will come in, especially once you are not able to control some of the things that comes into your country. Now, aside the fact that there are threats that come in, especially harmful products or harmful things that can affect your own country, there is also the fact where your local products or your local industries are affected. Now, so for instance, now if you allow a lot of these companies established in your own country, it now means that your own local industries are not provided the opportunity, to grow. And then, of course, they're not able to export some of those things that they locally produce. Now, let's take this instance now. For instance, now, let's say a company comes in from the US, and what they are trying to do is to export a lot of, they're trying to export a lot of our agricultural products. Now, they establish their company in our country, right? Which means that they are taking certain items or some of the goods and services, goods actually, from our country into their own country. So this is now saying that even though as much as, it's like providing an opportunity, it gives you your what's it called now, local citizens an opportunity for them to work for that particular company, and all of that. It still doesn't give local industries an opportunity for them to start that business and expand. Now, this is going to be like a multinational company because they've decided to come and invest, and then they are exporting those things that they have, locally produced out of your country. As much as it looks like an effect some encourage. Now, rather don't you in the other way around. Hello, please just give me a moment. Let me try to sort out this internet thing. I don't know why this is breaking off. Please give me a second.
Please let's stay connected while the instructor figures out this internet. While he is doing that, please let's go to the chat room and fill out the attendance form. Please let's fill out the attendance form. We are so sorry for this. This just hold on. Let's give him a few minutes while we fill out the attendance form.
Manuel, please make Hafiz a co-host. He's back on the call.
Oh, yes. Thank you very much. I have access now. Thank you very much. Apologies for this, everyone. Apologies for this. You know how these things can be sometimes. It can frustrate you. It makes you feel like maybe relocating to a different country entirely because of some of the challenges that you face with internet issues. So my apologies for this. I'm hoping this is more stable now. And then we'll have an awesome session moving forward. So trying to share my screen again. Okay, so I believe this is visible. So I mean, this is the slides that we've been on for like 15 minutes already because of how the internet has been, off and on. But I'm hoping that this is more stable once again. So I was saying earlier, right, that these are things that you really can, as much as possible, as much as you try to want the positive part of things to happen from global trade, you really cannot run away from the negative part of things that can affect it. You really can't run away from it, right? You really can't run away from the negativity that come from doing global trade. So I mean, some countries find a way to manage these things. Others decide to put certain policies in place. Some put embargoes. Some put some restrictions. Some will say, you know what, it's a sanction that we're going to put, although, I mean, embargo is part of a sanction, right? Some people put different policies in place. Some even put tariffs, especially with the example that I'm giving between Trump and China. Trump, I'm not saying US now, I'm saying Trump particularly because, he's the one who is making these moves. In fact, he will just give an executive order. He can just wake up one day and say, I'm giving an executive order that the tariffs we're going to be charging, maybe Japan or whatnot, will be about 30% increase, which would obviously affect the way business, the way they do business between those two countries. So I mean, those are things that literally happen as people do business today. So there's one thing also that's very, very important, right? And which is called outsourcing. Outsourcing is something that literally means that you're taking resources, or you're trying as much as possible to see how you're taking resource, how's it called now? You're outsourcing one particular product or services to another country. This is like saying that there's a particular part of your business or one industry of yours that you want investors to come and handle for you, right? There are certain things that exist within that particular space. Now, you can look at it from a company's perspective. You can also look at it from a country's perspective. Now, in terms of a company now, it now means that, for instance, you're trying to say for instance, now GT Bank that usually outsources human resource services. Now, this is literally saying, not like they don't have internal capabilities to be able to run their human resource capability, human resource need. However, they believe it's more efficient for them to use a third party to be able to manage that entire process end to end for them. Now, same thing happens in a country's perspective. A country might have some abundant resources, but they want international companies to come and bring in their machines, bring in their resources to be able to take some of those things and convert them, and then it's yielding something positive for them at the end of the day. This is also something similar to I think when oil was introduced initially, and then we had to bring in foreign companies to be able to help us do those things, and then we now export those crude that was extracted to another country. We would sell that crude to United States, and the United States buys that crude and then sell back to us. So outsourcing can be seen. There's a good part to it. There's a bad part to it. It's good if you are trying to take advantage of somebody's skill set. Because you don't have the internal capability to be able to do that. However, he also has his challenges, because of course there's also the financial implication that comes with outsourcing, because it literally means that certain agreements will be there. So for instance, now, when we're doing the expulsion of crude, there was a lot of agreement that happened in between. There's the percentage of the crude that will be sold, the money, some percentage, that will be given to the third-party company. There are certain policies and certain things that will govern the business within that particular period. Let's put crude aside. Let's look at other industries. So it might probably around the agricultural part of things. Maybe a company was brought in, to be able to help us process certain materials, help us process certain goods into finished goods, and then, then exporting some of those things out. It has its challenges as well. It really has its challenges. There are certain instances where, that company rather, takes advantage of probably maybe your staff, maybe your local citizen. Maybe they don't pay them enough. You know, you've given them an opportunity to come do business in your own country, take advantage of the resources that you have. However, they don't pay your local people well. You know, they probably do not have a good, they don't have a good conducive environment, which is also something happening in the Port Harcourt aspect of things. You know, where there's now black suit and everything happening because of how some of those things have been poorly managed. You know, all of these issues come into play, you know, and it really affects people and affects countries, affects businesses, you know, as it is. So I like to ask as well, you know, what do you really think would be, I mean, in your own words, in your own view, right? Which is a stronger case? Is it the pros or the cons in outsourcing? Do you think the advantages in outsourcing supersedes the disadvantage in outsourcing? Or do you think the disadvantage in outsourcing supersedes the advantage in outsourcing? Now, remember, you need to think it through, right? Once you look at the positive part, you're bringing them in, they're helping you do business. They're helping you do things that you cannot do. Because if you don't bring them in, your local people do not have, or your internal resources do not have the capabilities to do that. If you don't bring them in, how then will you proceed from one level to the other? If you don't bring them in, there are certain challenges that you will definitely face. Which one is easier to deal with? Not having them at all, or having them and managing the challenges that come after? Let me throw this to the house. Which is the better evil? Which is the better evil? Not having them at all, or having them and managing the situation that comes after? Which is a stronger case, the pros in outsourcing or the cons in outsourcing? Now you can tailor it to an organization, you can tailor it to a company, whichever you choose, you know, works as long as you drive the point down. Which do you think is best? Is it better to outsource, or, you know, still look at just ignore outsourcing and then find a way to manage your internal resource like that? You just know that, you know, while trying to manage your internal resource, you wouldn't get your people would not be, they might be effective, but never going to be efficient, you know, as it is. So, and you know, efficiency comes with skills and specialization in that particular thing. So if they don't have it, they don't have it. You can take them out, maybe your staff or your people take them outside for them to go and be trained. And then when they come back, you know, that would take a while, right? That would literally take a while. And of course, before they get to that level of perfection, it takes a very long time. So I see Christiana's message. Yeah, having them. Okay. Having them and learning to manage, learning to manage them. Okay. Thank you very much, Saba. Thank you very much, Saba Esther. Thank you. Other comments from participants? What do you think? What do you think? Is it better? Is it better to outsource, or, you know, it's best to just ignore and then find a way to promote or build the local resource that you have internally? Okay. Who else is? Let me go to the chat room. I haven't heard from Titi Lokwe. Okay. A few people I haven't heard from. Okay. Jarius. Okay. Haven't heard from you too. Yuri, I'm not sure I've heard from you today too. Okay, I think I've heard from Elizabeth earlier. What's the stronger case? The pros or the cons? Is it best to have them? Is it best to outsource, or is it best to just ignore? I mean, if Rashid, Rashid, you need to take a side. You need to take a side. You can't be indifferent. You can't sit on defense on this one. You're not allowed to sit on defense. I mean, so it has its pros, it has its cons. Obviously, you know, one is a lesser evil than the other, and then of course one is easier to deal with than the other. For me, I think it's best to even have them, you know, for a period of time, right? So if, for instance, now you want to outsource a particular service to certain people for a period of time, right? It shouldn't be a long contract that will be for a long number of years, almost permanenting those people stay, because they will suck you dry. You know, they will take everything from you, and then the returns you'll be seeing on investment will really be nothing at the end of the day, right? So for me, I think it's best to have them. And then you clearly specify how long you want this particular contract or this particular business to be for. Let's say, for instance, now I'm trying to bring a multinational, I'm trying to bring a foreign company to help me extract crude. The best thing I can do is to give them a particular duration to say, okay, you know what? I need you to be here for 2 years or for 3 years. Within that 2 years, what you will do is to employ my local citizens. Aside me employing the local citizens, you also need to find a way to train these local citizens on how to do some of these things. While all of this is happening, remember that your local citizens are being trained on some of these things. Although in certain instances, these international companies will not want to give all trade secrets to your local staff because they also are trying to protect their business, which is quite understandable. But you also need to understand that as much as you're giving at you can't keep these people for long, right? You really can't keep them for long because as long as you keep them, it is possible that, not all companies can be accountable to the quantity of crude that they extract. What if they extract a lot and they tell you that they just extract some specific tons of crude in a given month or in a given year, and then what you expect in return is not what the exact figure is. So there is a very dicey thing, but you just need to take advantage of and make the best decision in some of those things. So thank you very much for your comments, Rashid. I think I saw a message from somebody as well. It depends on the scenario. Okay, thank you, Rashid. Jonathan, okay, it depends on yeah, I agree. It depends. It's okay to outsource in the short run, and then in the long run, better to train internally. Absolutely, yeah, I agree with you, Jonathan. I agree. Thank you very much. Sabah, thank you very much for your message as well. So like I said, outsourcing, it's also a form of international trade or global trade, as you call it, and you really can't do without it. Sometimes it can be training, sometimes it can be services, it can be products, it can be anything. It can also be you just bringing in some expatriates to help you handle certain things, and then once they're done, who they go. It now also depend on how long you want to keep them for, and things like that. So let's not overflog this and let's jump into other things. Benefits of globalization. This is something that we all should know. What do you think are the benefits of the globalization? This is like showing what is the advantage of having this place? What is the advantages for a company? What are the advantages for a country? So what I would also say, I need everybody, everybody on the call to mention at least one advantage and one disadvantage of globalization. This is something that is common. It's something that is happening everywhere. We obviously have discussed countless times some of the challenges that people face during globalization. We've talked about so many advantages that happen with this, but please mention at least one advantage, one disadvantage that you believe would affect globalization in a way. One advantage, one disadvantage. Thanks to Rashid, thanks to Saba for all the comments that you have provided. But of course, let's keep them coming. Ojo Christiana, please, one advantage, one disadvantage. One advantage, one disadvantage. Everybody, one advantage, one disadvantage. What is one advantage you think of globalization, and what is the disadvantage? So in fact, what we should even do is, if you say one advantage, what do you think will be the follow-up disadvantage of that thing? I think that will make it even nicer. One advantage, and what is the perceived disadvantage from that thing that you have mentioned? Please, in the chat room. Thank you very much, everybody in the chat room. One advantage, and what is a perceived disadvantage of globalization? One advantage and one perceived disadvantage of globalization. This is easy peasy. There's a classwork as well, right? There's a classwork, there's the assignments, there are certain things that we'll discuss. One advantage and one perceived disadvantage of what you have mentioned. Where are my people? Elizabeth, one advantage, one perceived disadvantage. Jarius, I'm here to hear from you. Jonathan, yeah, I know you've been commenting. Abigail, where are you? One advantage, one disadvantage. Yeah, one advantage, one perceived disadvantage of globalization. This is easy peasy. Yes, so Do I need to refresh or nobody's saying anything? If you feel it's better for you to speak, then unmute. Okay, I agree. It can lead to economic growth of the country. I agree. Esther, then the perceived disadvantage will not be what? I think you know this. Is it Esther? Yeah. I think you know this. So if we say it leads to the economic growth of a country, what is the disadvantage of this? Yeah, Esther. The direct opposite would be that it can also lead to the downfall, right? It can also lead to the downfall of a country, right? It can also lead to the downfall of a country. There's something that they call economic boom. Something called economic boom. Aha, inequality of overestimate. I agree. Thank you very much, Esther. Yes. Okay, Jonathan. Borderless economic gains. Okay. That it could be expensive. Okay, I agree. Of course, it will to tell on you as well. Uh, access to market and also loss of job. Yes, Rashid. Thank you very much. Yes. So the good thing is, you have access to a wider market, right? But as much as you are having access to a wider market, as much as you are bringing things inside, people are not working, right? People are not making money. The only thing people are making, or the people who are making money are the importers, while they are also trying to crash other people's job. Because if there is a company that is internally developing some of those things, they will try to build, uh, what's it called now, competence as well as grow the company in itself. Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much for that, Rashid. Economic growth and job displacement. Yeah, I agree. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. Thank you. So it's clear that it is very, very clear that as much as we try to do globalization, as much as you try to expand, there's always one resultant effect to your organization or to your country as well. Advantage, increased productivity. Disadvantage, job loss. Brilliant. Thank you, Tolu. Thank you. Advantage, exposure to other ways of exploring natural resources. Yeah, awesome. Awesome. Thank you. And then disadvantage of this now will now be what? Especially of this will not be what there could be theft there now. Sometimes it could be them taking advantage of your own country as well. It could be anything. It could be them trying as much as possible to not provide the proper return, the earnings or something, accurate earnings or something like that. They might, as sometimes some of these companies do what they call that thing now. Publish their accounts and all of those things, but some are very, very clean. They do not have any dubious act or anything, but others are not. Not all of them are very sincere in terms of some of those things. All right, thank you very much, everybody, for your comments. Thank you very much. So let's go ahead. Okay, all right. So, we've talked about why nations trade. We've talked about globalization. We've talked about how it affects different countries, how it affects companies as well, why it is important that we should be able to understand certain concepts in these things. So we've talked about a lot of things, right? We've talked about globalization itself. We've talked about how it affects people, talked about how the challenges that comes in, talked about certain concepts, exports, imports, balance of payment, balance of trade, currencies, and how it is pegged, how it is also floated, things like that. We've talked about the advantage, we've also talked about comparative advantage. We've also talked about some of the challenges, that organization face from globalization. We also talked about what are the challenges that face and the advantages that exist, in outsourcing. We also talked about the benefits and challenges that exist in international trade or globalization. Now, let's talk about barriers to trade. Now, barriers to trade are some of the things that affect businesses. It is important that you as a business person, you should be able to know some of the challenges that organizations or countries face while doing business or while trying to do business. In recent time, one of the biggest challenges that especially people who are into selling cars and the rest, I mean, Nigeria at some point closed its borders, from buying certain things, so people who import cars had a huge challenge at that time. In fact, one of the reasons why buying cars in Nigeria is very, very expensive now, because I mean the border is not wasn't really open like that for people to just import certain things. Some of the challenges that exist also is some of the taxes that that exist to clear some of those things, some of those vehicles inside your country, into the country. So there are different barriers that currently exist to trade, some of which are, there's something called the natural barriers, there are tariff barriers, there are non-tariff barriers. Now, barriers in reality just means something that affects another thing from happening, something that is like a block that blocks something from happening, right? Some things that would obstruct the free flow of maybe product or services coming into and outside a particular country. There are so many natural barriers that could exist, and these are things that you have no control on. You have no control on. It is very, very weird for me to say I want to go and do business in India, and I cannot speak Indian. How do I want to do business? Is that possible? Obviously not. It's very, very impossible for me to say I want to do business in Asia and I cannot speak any of the Asian languages. Don't you think that's a challenge? So that's a barrier as well. Now, the only way to avoid some of those things is you have a local who can help you translate, and things like that. You have challenges with cultural differences as well. You really can't do business in Arabian countries saying you're selling pork and the rest like that, because it's against their own culture, it's against their own traditions, and things like that. So it's important that it makes sense for us to be able to know certain things, how and where to do certain businesses, where the opportunity exists and how we can do certain things. Climate is also a very, very big deal, because you can't really say you want to do business in a particular place without minding the climate, right? Without minding how the weather is at that place. You want to go sell, something in a region where literally wouldn't make any sense. It's just like saying you're selling what they call that thing now. Forgotten that terminology that they use. But it's really, really weird saying you're taking something to another place where it's really not important, and their climate really wouldn't even accommodate. It wouldn't accommodate something like that. So it's very, very important. Now, aside natural barriers, there's also something called tariff barriers. Tariffs are usually tax, that are always imposed on imported goods. Tariffs are things that you obviously will pay if you want something to be imported into your country. Now, these tariffs are of different types. There is the sorry, excuse me. All right, apologies for that. Okay, so I was saying that tariffs are usually tax that are imposed, especially on imported goods. You realize that the actual value at which they buy a particular product is always different from what they actually will sell. Aside the fact that those people want to make profit and whatnot, however, they obviously will want to add the fact that the tax has been put on that particular product, so it's very, very difficult to say that you want to, what's it called now? It's very, very difficult for people who are doing business and then not able to add certain tax that has been provided. Say, for instance, now I go to Cotonou, I go pick a car for maybe 800,000 naira or 1,000,000 naira, and then I'm into Nigeria, and then you think I'm going to sell that car for 1,000,000 naira. Never possible. They've added their tax to it, and I'm also going to make profit, of course, after putting tax and all of those things. So these are some of the things that exist and why people will not want to do business, because once the tax is too much, people try to run away from that, because it's like saying you're buying that particular product for double the amount. So the idea for the tariffs really is to find a way to discourage indigents or residents of a particular country from buying things from outside that particular region. Now, countries actually put this in place because, one, they want to either promote the domestic companies that are within that country, or they just want to find a way to reduce the rate at which other countries bring things into their country, so that they don't sell or bring harmful things to their country. Now, the idea really also is that once tax have been imposed on certain products from coming into your own country, you then look at it and start comparing. If I can buy this locally produced one here for X amount, why will I now have to pay times 2 the amount for something I'm buying overseas, or I'm trying to import it into the country? So that way you get discouraged almost immediately, because you start to think it doesn't make any sense. I'm spending 2 or 3 times the amount getting another car. There are people who, regardless, they don't care of what the tariffs is. There's a specific taste that they have on specific products, but it still doesn't make sense for a layman. It doesn't make sense for a common man like me and you. So it would just put you off, because you really wouldn't want to be able to do that because of the tariffs that has been imposed. So, yep. There are examples of non-tariff barriers. Those are things like the embargoes I was saying, the sanctions. Embargoes are part of sanctions. Sanctions is something that countries, or the government of the country puts in place, just to discourage, just to either punish the other countries. Now is what I mean, right? Either punish the other countries from bringing their products into another country, or find a way to frustrate you from doing business. Sometimes the pressure is a lot. When that pressure is a lot from those countries, they really do not want to. You can't stop them from doing business. However, you're frustrating their business, right? You're frustrating their business. The one typical example is the one I mentioned earlier with Trump and China. When Trump was saying that, he's increasing the tariffs by about 20%. That was the executive order he gave on Chinese products that are coming in. You know that in US right now has the highest importation of Asian products or Chinese products into their own country. Now, they're trying as much as possible to see how they can reduce the rate at which US, imports some of these Chinese products. But it's very difficult. Now, the only way to reduce the rate at which they import these things is to place tariffs, on those products or on those things that are coming in. Now, if tariff exists, people will not buy a lot of Chinese products. Do you get what I'm saying now? If the 20% tariffs or whatever percentage of tariffs are being imposed on those products, nobody will want to buy Chinese products, because it wouldn't be as cheap as it used to be. Now it will now be times 2 or times 3. They are maybe not exactly times 2, times 3, but it will significantly be higher than what every other person can afford, within that space. Now the Chinese people will be frustrated, because once you have a lot of products that you have produced and you want to sell, and then there's a tariff that is limiting the rate at which you sell, then it frustrates you, because what then would you do with all the inventory that you have? What then would you do with all of the product that you have produced? Because they're not going into other countries, then you're not selling it. Tariffs has been imposed. It frustrates you. And that's why what Chinese government have also done is, as much as Trump has decided to put his own tariff, they've also have increased their own tariff on export of US products into China. So it's a very, very funny, funny thing between those two countries. It's a very, very funny thing. Now, what Chinese government are also trying to do is also to frustrate the United States from also, buying getting Chinese to buy their products. Because it's you buy from me, I buy from you. It's like that. You raise your own GDP, I also raise my own GDP, and it is only when you buy from me that I can raise my GDP. Things like that.
Sorry,
So,
Mr. Hafiz.
yes, please.
It's past our break time. If you can just thank you. You understand?
Okay, all right, no problem. So let me just quickly talk about this, and then I'll stop by 12:05. 12:05. And then I believe we can go on our break, right? All right. So the non-tariff barriers really are just some of the things that are put in place. Embargoes can be it, import quotas. Quotas is just literally saying things, limitation on the things that you bring into that particular country. Quotas are saying that, okay, if the country places a quota, it means that there's only a particular quantity of product that you can bring into this particular country for this particular period of time. Now, this is also another method of, restricting the way people do business, and then restricting the way that people bring in foreign products into your country. There's also something called the, what's it called now? Binational regulation. This is just also saying that, it gives privileges to national, what's it called now? Industries, to be able to, promote their own business, giving them privileges to, promote their products rather than, buying a lot of those things from overseas. Now, these are regulations that are put in place, just to reduce the rate at which people come in to bring products into your own country. There's also another thing also called the exchange control. This is just literally saying that in the instance where there's a country where there's a company rather in your country that sells certain things to other countries outside, what they would want you to do is to, after selling that thing to that country, bring in the foreign forex that you get, those foreign currencies, give it to them. Now your international what's it called now? Your control agency, either CBN or whatnot, will correct the forex that you take from selling those your products, convert it, and then give you back the local currency or whatnot. So in the instance where you want to do business with some of those countries, they would want to be the middle person, that way you're collecting forex from foreign countries, take it through the CBN, they convert it, they give you back your what's it called now, your local currency. That way they are trying as much as possible to reduce the rate at which the foreign currency is in circulation, and then trying to promote the local currency within that particular region. All right, so like I said, there are different barriers to that. And then, of course, we've talked about the three major ones: the tariffs itself, the non-tariffs barriers, and then we've talked about the natural barriers that affect businesses as it is. So when we come back from break, we'll talk about what are the things that fosters global trade, what are the things that ensures that global trade moves smoothly, and then, of course, we can deep dive into certain things. Thank you very much, everybody. I hope this has been a bit enlightening, and then, of course, I hope it has been a value add for you as well. Thank you very much. I think I'll just hand over now, and then we can come back after break. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hafiz. It was really, really nice to hear from you. And we'll go on a break now and be back by 12:30. 12:30. Please, let's note that 12:30. Thank you, everybody. You there? Mr.
Hi.
Hafiz, are you? Okay, okay, okay.
Thank you very
Please,
much.
over to you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I'll try. Excuse me, let me put my. I'll try for this not to be as lengthy as the initial first half. We'll try as much as possible to go faster than what we have done initially. So excuse me, we'll go faster this time around. So let me bring up my screen. Please give me a minute. All right. Please let me know when you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, yeah, initially we're just trying to, discuss some of the importance of globalization, why organizations and countries decide to go into international trade. What are the advantages that come with it? What are the disadvantages? What are the barriers that comes with it? How are they also able to manage the situation end to end? How are they also trying to protect their own infant industries? How are they also trying to make sure that their own country is not porous to negative things that come in place? So there are so many things that countries and companies put into place. So yeah, like I said, we'll try as much as possible to be very fast so that we'll cover a lot within the short time that are available. All right, so now what we need to look into now is how government and institutions foster world trade. There are certain things that government and institutions put in place in order to ensure that things go smoothly. There are certain things also that they do, just to hinder, businesses from going smoothly as well, just to avoid what will affect them in the long run. So there's something also called dumping. Dumping is usually an act where some countries will decide to bring in their products and sell at a lower fee into your own country. What that is doing now, it has a positive, it also has a negative effect. The positive part of things is that people see things that are cheaper. People will now see those imported items as things that will solve their problem. The negative part of things will now be that it discourages your local products to be fully functional. Local companies to fully be functional, because that way, once you compare the cost of importing certain things and the cost of producing certain things within your own country, obviously will affect it in a very, very negative point. So like it has its advantage, it also has its disadvantage. So these are some of the things that government institutions put in place. Some will put anti-dumping laws to say, okay, we don't want you to bring in certain things into our country because we want to protect our infant industries as well. So some of those laws are in place, just to be able to manage and protect some of those things. There are certain things also that have been done in order to ensure that there's a free trade between not organizations now, between countries, especially with the instance of this Uruguay round. Now, this is like a meeting or the settings that was held a long time ago, between countries, in order to ensure that there is free trade within certain countries within a particular period of time. So this was, I think this was it 19 something, 1993 now? I can't remember the year specifically, but the idea about this particular particular meeting was really to see that how do we ensure countries had to come together to say, okay, there's a lot of fights between our country and your country. There's a lot of misunderstanding. There's a lot of settlements that has not been done between two countries, especially one country thinks they've been defrauded by the other country, things like that. So this group of countries now had to sit down to say, okay, let's try to find a way to protect ourselves, protect all member countries. Let's find a way to ensure that there's a free trade between all countries. Let's try to find a way that will settle issues that will come up at any time. So the idea of this particular this is to ensure that there's a proper negotiation between all countries, where one country will not feel affected by the other, where one country will not feel like it's being cheated by one country or another. So this whole Uruguay round was set up, just to ensure that things like this was sorted. It was from this Uruguay round that the World Trade Organization was established, just to be able to ensure that, trade is properly regulated, trade is properly done in the freest and fairest way between member countries. The whole idea was to ensure that, there's lower tariffs. Countries are not imposing more on certain things than other countries. There was proper rules of trading. Countries are not, trying to steal or cheat the other country. There's a lot of things that was put in place, especially around dispute regulation, and this was what this sitting arrangement brought about. This Uruguay round was just typically to address all of these things, and you'll notice that once that meeting was held, there was a lot of tariffs that was reduced to the total amount of $235 billion. So for you to see a tariff that has been reduced between countries to the total of $235 billion, then you should know that a lot of tariffs was reduced in between countries, just to ensure that there's a free and smooth trade between countries. So I mean, this was one of the institutions that was put in place, just to checkmate those things. Remember, it was from the Uruguay round that the World Trade Organization was also vetted. So as we proceed, there are other institutions also that have contributed towards the smoothest and this free and fairest way of operation. So another instance is the World Bank in itself. The World Bank and International Monetary Fund are international financial institutions. International financial institutions mean that they are institutions outside that are established, to make sure that they protect countries, they protect free trade, they ensure that tariffs also are not developed, and it doesn't affect people in a way. The real idea of the IMF, is to see how they can provide financial assistance to member countries. The idea of the World Bank as well is to see how they can help developing countries, countries that are struggling in one way or another. The World Bank provides loan to you to see how you could also build some of those things. That International Monetary Fund, the whole idea also for it also is to see that countries that already have a budget and their budget, doesn't cover all the infrastructures, the development that they want to do, they provide some form of loan as well for them to be able to cover some of those things, and they pay back after a period of time. So there are so many international financial institutions as are today that exist, and all of them have, even though very similar, even though they have a very similar mandate, however, they have specific things that they are meant to address. As we proceed, we obviously will talk more into that. So it's also interesting to know that there's something called international, what's it called now? There are also something called regional financial institutions. Now, the regional financial institutions are not like the international financial institutions. Now, international is global, right? Regional is for a particular region. So while we're talking about World Bank, which covers all
Please let's stay connected. I think his internet went out again.
I think I really need to go to the mountaintop to pray because of this internet. My apologies once again, everyone. I really don't know why internet is troubling me like this. It's giving me a headache. It's giving me a headache. Please confirm you can still hear me so that.
Okay, I was about to say we can hear you. Whoa.
All right, thank you very
Okay, we
much.
can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you. Thank you. I really don't know why it's dropping off like this. All right. So I was saying that there are international financial institutions, right? The ones that regulate on a global scale. There are also regional financial institutions. I was saying that the World Bank is an international financial institution because it regulates the entire world. Same as the IMF, which also regulates the entire world. To interest you to know that there's also the international what's it called now? I think they call them the Bank Settlement, Bank for International Settlement, which is like an institution for, you know how central bank is the bank for all banks. Now, this is a bank for all central banks. They call them the Bank of International Settlement. Now, this is a bank for all central banks that exist, you know, as it is. This is where all central banks more or less report to, sort of, you know. So these are real international financial institutions. Now, when we're not talking about the regional one, is now where we're talking about the African Development Bank, we're talking about the Asian Development Bank, we're talking about some of those ones because they are, you know, they are regional, you know, European Investment Bank, you know, and all of those things, they are regional. But there is more global and there's another one regional. So I'm just trying to explain that, you know, there's a difference between those, just in case you've heard of one and then you're surprised where that falls under, you know. So yeah. There's the international, there's as well the regional financial institution. So really what these international institutions do, you know, is just to see how they can support countries, how they can also ensure that there's enough funding for these for these countries, for them to be able to, you know, provide for their for them to be able to, you know, improve infrastructure wise, for them to be able to provide certain things, you know, that solves a particular need and problem. The World Bank specific one is to ensure that, you know, they provide enough funding for underdeveloped countries, to ensure that they know they provide enough funds that would support those underdeveloped countries. The International Monetary Fund, in its own sense, is just to provide for member countries. So countries that are not members, then of course they don't get anything. You obviously would take a good guess. One of the countries that are non-members of the International Monetary Fund is the North Korea that I have mentioned earlier. There are other countries too, I think about 2 or 3 of them, that have decided that, you know what, we don't even want to be part of International Monetary Fund. We don't want to be part of anything. Just leave us the way we are, you know. So World Bank provides to everybody regardless, you know, while IMF is more for countries that are within that particular space. Now, one interesting thing also to note is that there's also something called the International Economic Communities. Now, these are communities that promote free trade between countries. These are communities that encourage people to, you know, do business between one country and the other. They try as much as possible to see how they can reduce tariffs between countries. So, for instance, now, if African countries, some specific African countries come together to say, you know what, let's create an economic community that would protect we member countries. Let's say, for instance, ECOWAS, which is a very good example of international economic community. ECOWAS was the combination of certain countries, right, that come together to say, okay, let's protect our interests. Whatever trade or business we're doing between our countries, there's going to be a fair tariff that will be charged on importation and exportation of certain products and services. Now, countries that are not members of those communities obviously wouldn't take advantage of some of those things. Now, if in the instance where there's an issue between those countries or member countries, they always will find a way to sort out that problem. Countries that are not members of that this thing, they are on their own. Whatever issues that exist, they don't. They might not be able to interfere, you know, to solve certain problems. And that's why I remember when what's this man's name now? This man from what's this country now that this president that took over that decided that, you know, he wants to come out of the he wants to come out of ECOWAS. What's the name of this African country again? I can't remember it. Can't remember this military man. Anyway, so the idea is that some countries decide that, you know what, we don't really see any value that we're getting from this, regardless, you know, we want to be on our own because, you know, it pays us more to be on our own rather than being regulated by the economic community that we don't really see value from. Obviously, it's not like there's no value from it. They try as much as possible to protect their own interests of members as well. So those are some of the things that happen. There are other international economic communities like the African Union. There are others as well. That exist. Just to be able to protect interests of their members. There's also the European Union too that exists. They try as much as possible to see how they can protect members within that space. Now, there's also something called the North American Free Trade Agreement. This is a community that exists between member countries. Now, the United States, Canada, and Mexico, they decided to come together to say, okay, you know what, whatever business we're going to do within this particular, within us, let's try as much as possible to protect our members. Let's try as much as possible to see how we reduce tariffs. Let's try as much as possible to see how we solve out problems that might exist between us international trade-wise. Let's see how we can solve some of those problems, without, outside interference, and things like that. So this was set up, just to be able to promote that, to promote free trade with, not exactly free though, to promote trade. Yeah. To promote trade within North American countries, and then see how some of those things can be sorted out. It was established, and then of course they are doing that. But of course, with new administration, things will change. And when things change, obviously will affect certain agreements. As long as politics exists, certain is also something that was entered between, Central American countries. Central American countries, in the sense that countries like El Salvador, Dominican, Republic, Honduras, which also came together to say, you know what, let's try to find a way to ensure that tariffs are not move out of this community if they feel that they're not getting value from it. Nobody stops you from going out. It's just that the advantages that you get from this might not really come. Nobody's coming to your rescue, because of how you pull out of certain agreements and communities that you are in. Same as the European Union also that I mentioned earlier. This is also a community that houses about 27 countries as it is. Most European countries are also part of this union, just to be able to protect member countries, to be able to ensure that there's proper trade among them. And then they are also able to, see how the countries do not suffer. Even if there are issues between them, they're able to sort it out amicably. There are lots and lots of this economic.
Mr. Hafiz, if you can hear you, your line is breaking.
Communities that exist, because you see some of the listed 27. Oh, my internet is breaking, right?
Yes, yes, it is. Mr. Hafiz, can you hear me? Okay, please, let's hold on a minute. Please, let's hold on a bit.
Yep, I'm back. I can imagine how frustrating this can be. I can imagine. I'm so sorry about that. I mean, I don't. I've
We are so sorry for the break. I'm sure the trainer will join us really soon.
I've tried everything I can. I think maybe next time, I mean, I'm hoping there will not be a next time, but if it does again, I'm going to change location because I've tried switching, I'm switching. I don't know what's going on. Apologies again. I can imagine how frustrating this can be. Let me put my screen up again. Okay, thank you very much. Let me put my screen up again. Internet is something else in this part of the world. maybe money will come and then we'll all start or we can then afford what they call it guys again, Starlink. Everybody will have like 2 or 3 in their houses or something like that because you can't rely on the normal telecom providers that we currently have. I mean, it's something else. Everywhere you go is not everywhere you're going. That was just an enlightenment. All right,
Yes.
so
Mr. Hafiz, please can you put the slides in projection mode? Thank you.
okay, cool, sure. Thank you very much. Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, on that habit, I don't think it has taken effect. Let me do it again. Okay, all right, better, right?
Yes, we're good.
Okay, thank you very much. Once again, apologies for this. It's just something that sometimes you just can't fight it. Can't fight it. All right, so yeah, I was just mentioning something about the international financial institutions, especially the World Bank and the IMF, and what specifically that they do and how they help institutions. I was mentioning something about the international communities as well. We mentioned about what's it called now? Have we done this? Okay, yes, we've talked about the Central North American Free Trade Agreement. We also talked about the Central American Free Trade Agreement. This is more for Central American countries and how they've been able to sort out and solve whatever trade differences that they have and put in policies that would guide and regulate their member countries. Same as the European Union. I was also mentioning about the 28 European countries that are a part of this union, just to ensure that there is a free trade, and then of course there's a lot of barriers that are reduced, and there's less tariffs on some of the things that they do. So you can see, let me bring this down. You can see some of the countries that exist here, and then you can also see what's it called now? Yeah, the 28 countries that exist within that space. Okay, this is just like a breakdown as well for you to just see some of those countries that currently exist. Now, the thing now about this what these international communities really do is just to see how they can well protect member countries, how best they are able to see how they lower trade barriers that currently exist between their countries. Like I said, member countries that are not members of some of those communities, they obviously wouldn't benefit from any of the policies or trade agreement that exists between members of these communities. If you're not if you're not part of them, then of course there's nothing you are benefiting from it. If you're not member of the Central American Free Trade Agreement, then you're not getting anything from it. If you're not a member of the Northern American Free Trade Agreement, you're not getting anything. So each of these communities have, distinct and unique, what's it called now, policies that they have that guide and protect members of their own countries. So participating in the global market space, I mean, everybody wants to be global. Every organization wants to find a way to put or have a footprint in one country or the other. And this is not just, it doesn't just happen by luck. It's an active, an intentional act of one person or an organization to carry out certain things in order to get of the day. But it's important that you know that there are methods at which you can, participate in these things. You can either decide to do things like licensing. You can either decide that you want to do things like contract manufacturing. You can either decide that you want to do things like joint venturing or maybe direct foreign investment or in this.
Mr. Please, your line is breaking again. Your internet is breaking.
My line is breaking? Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for pointing that out. I hope this is better. I hope, or would you advise I change location? Please permit me. I need to change my location just to make things better. Hold on, please.
Okay. Please, let's hold on a minute.
Okay. I'm hoping this will make a difference. Okay. Right. Please confirm you can hear me. I'm hoping.
Yes, we can hear you, and I think it's better here.
Thank you. So I decided to change location to make. I'm hoping things will be better. All right, I'm sharing now. Please confirm you can still see my screen, and then let me make this presentation mode.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you very much. All right, so I was saying that, right, there are so many strategies that organizations should be able to adopt or should be conscious of if they want to do business internationally. One of the things you need to consider is if your products or services that you're looking to offer is something that you need to work with partners, right? If it's something that you're starting from scratch and then you want to establish in another country, there are certain strategies that you obviously need to adopt. If you're also looking to do things like foreign direct investment, then that means you're trying to invest in another country, you know, by probably providing one particular service or another, or maybe investing in some of the investing your business or your funds in a particular country, you know, that's another strategy. If you see a business that you think, okay, you know what, let me support by providing some financial support to this particular company in this particular country, just to see how to grow this particular business. Once you do that, I mean, that's also some form of international business and trade that you're currently doing. Same thing as joint venture. This is an instance where, you know, you try to partner with a foreign company just to be able to see how you can deliver your services to other organizations. There are so many strategies to this, right? It depends on two things. It's either you're starting afresh or you want to work with an already existing business. Now, if you're starting afresh, the strategies you're going to use will obviously be different from you working with an already existing business. Now, if the already existing business already has branches in other places, which means you need to ask that person or find out from those companies if you are allowed to franchise it. You know, if you are allowed to franchise that business for you to be given a permission to run that kind of business also in a different location. However, the name will still be the same, you know, of course, but you also need to also make sure that the product and the products you're providing and the services you're providing also is in conformance with what is available or what is being practiced in the other part of the in other countries, right? That business that exists in other countries. Now, the idea really is that you just need to know where your current business is or where your country is as at that time, and then knowing the best strategy to be able to adopt. For me, like I said, if this is a business that you're starting afresh or you're an already existing business, it's just for you to identify which of the strategies that you would adopt will be best for you, right? If you feel joint venture would be best, then I mean, why not? Recently, I think somebody called from the UK to say, oh, Hafiz, you know what, please, we'd like to partner with your organization. We want to provide an IT service within a particular region in Nigeria. However, we believe it makes sense for us to be able to partner with your organization to be able to do that. That's a joint venture proposition that person is bringing in. And, you know, with joint venture, they need to make a research about me. I need to make a research about their company as well, you know, and then see how profitable this will work. Can we take advantage of each other's business in a good way, you know? Can we take advantage of can I take advantage of their brand, their footprints that they have in other parts of the UK, and can they also take advantage of this particular region, you know? So there are so many things that you need to put into consideration before deciding which of the strategies you want to adopt. You know, if you just have funds, you don't want to even do anything, you just see a business that you'd like to invest in, I mean, it's also something that, you know, it's allowed for you to also try to do. So how do companies enter global market space? I mean, one of the things, the easy way is by exporting, which is very, very easy. It's either you export some of the product that you already produce right now, and then, you know, take it out of the country. Now, remember that before you decide that you want to do the exports, there are certain criteria that you must meet. There are organizations that will have to, you know, they have to look at the things that you're exporting. You know, they have to look at it if it passes compliance for you to be able to export it to other countries. You know, some of those things are things that you need to be very, very conscious. You need to be very, very conscious about. One of the biggest things in Nigeria that we export that we've all agreed on is some of the human resources that we export. However, there are other things that we also export. You will agree with me. There are other countries also that, I mean, we've talked about this before. There are other things that you can also, that we've realized that other countries also do better, you know, than Nigeria. So one of the easy way to be able to participate in all of this thing is exporting of either one goods or another to other countries. I mean, we've talked about this before, so I'm not going to trouble you guys asking you questions on this again. One other area that which we've talked about also is licensing part of things, or the franchising part of things. Now, the franchise means that, you know what, you're giving an organization the permission, you know, to be able to run or do a similar or your type of business in a different location, which means that they will definitely have to use your name, you know, you have to use some of your, what's it called now? Will I say, what's that word now? Some of the things that you use, you know, recipes and some of the things that you do in your own business. You have to also let them know, because they also want to do or maintain the standard at which you operate in a particular region. Now, licensing is just saying that okay, you're giving somebody the license to be able to sell your own product, sell your own products to another company, or you're giving the person permission to be able to use your trademark and some other things, just so that they are able to sell some of the things that you provide in the global market space. Now, this is very, very similar, right? One is especially around especially around food. The other is around, product and services. Those are some of the things. So licensing and franchising is one other easy way for you to be able to participate in the global market space. Like I said, it depends on where you are as at today, what you want to establish, what companies and what market do you want to expand to. You wouldn't be somebody who's just starting today and just think you can just easily expand like that. You have to study what industry you are in, what companies you can partner with, what companies you want to franchise with, and then of course you can take up that with the foreign company. Remember with the example of Michael that we started this class with from Domino's Pizza, he actually was working as a delivery person within that particular business until he decided that, you know what, I want to franchise this as well. I want to get permission from them to be able to run this particular business in a different location. Now, like I said, it's not something that is very easy. It's something that you have to take permission from them. There's a certain amount of money that you also have to be remitting as well to them, like that, you understand. So licensing is also very similar, same thing as well, same approach. However, this one allows you to use some of their trademarks and certain things like that. These are some of the top organizations that you realize that they're almost everywhere. KFC is almost everywhere. McDonald's is almost everywhere. 7-Eleven as well. You realize that these are organizations that spread across the world. Everybody is trying to, at one point in time, see how they can also take advantage, work with these people, and then see how they can provide the services that these people are providing in other places. These are things that did not just happen out of the blue. It was a conscious decision that the managers and the owners have decided to take, to see how they can expand. Now, the expansion might be from them, or you are seeking to see how you can work with the organization and then seeing how to establish it in your own country. There are instances also that, similar to Michael, who used to be an employee within that business and decided to go out. You might not necessarily have to be an employee immediately, but if you are somebody who wants to take up that bold step to say, okay, you know what, I want to do this particular thing with this organization, you can always, reach out to them, seeing how you can do that. And then of course, always agreements will have to be drafted, and things like that for that to eventually work out at the end of the day. So these are amazing entrepreneurs. If they tell you the story of KFC, of course, you realize that this is not somebody who just got it out of the blue. It's an elderly man who decided that, let me go into this and use this particular recipe that he got a long time ago from his mom or something like that. So if you hear the stories of these people, you truly be inspired, because it didn't just happen out of the blue. There were so many challenges that they had. There are so many issues that they had in the, while trying to come up, as a business. So there are other methods as well. Like I said earlier, contract manufacturing also is a method at which manufacturing companies decide that let's take domestic brands. Let's work with indigenous organizations, seeing how we can partner with them to be able to deliver a particular service within a particular country. There are several methods. Like I said, there's a joint venture as well, similar thing as well, partnering with a particular company to see how you can deliver that as it is. But obviously, these agreements do not just happen out of the blue. There needs to be contractual agreement so that one person is not breaching the contract, and then another person suffers for it. This is not a business that happens just within companies. It also happens between countries. So countries also carry out joint ventures, just to be able to deliver one particular service or the other. So it's not just tilted towards a company, it's also tilted towards countries as well. Foreign direct investment as well, which means somebody trying to invest in a particular country, even if you're not physically in that particular country, but you're trying to see how you can take advantage. Of course, no risk, no reward. If you don't take the risks, then of course there's no reward to it. However, people like this who decide to do this foreign direct investment, they eventually be most of the greatest reward takers. However, if things go south, they still end up being the ones who suffer the most, because they've decided to take the risk to invest in a particular country. And then, of course, if it works out well, they benefit from it. If it doesn't, they suffer for it at the end of the day. Counter trade is very, very similar to what we would call is what we would call a similar thing as a trade by barter that exists before. This is a trade that you use a goods to buy another goods, you use services to buy another services. So it's something that some countries also have put in place, just to ensure that rather than using cash to sort out certain things, they can use products to solve one problem, not problem now, but you can use one product to collect another product from another country, something like that. So that's something similar that is happening between countries as it is. All right. So I mean, once again, these are things that we all should be aware of. If you are an entrepreneur and you're here, and of course you want to take some of these initiatives, you need to understand where exactly that you are in. You need to know where you are. You need to understand how and the risk involved in some of the decisions that you would want to take. It will be very, very wrong of you to decide that, you just want to do joint venture and not even knowing your strength as a business and then the strength of the partner that you're prospectively looking into. It will be very, very wrong of you to just decide that, we want to wake up one day and franchise one particular company. You don't know how well it will be. Right now, I don't even think people mention things like Mr. Biggs anymore. Mr. Biggs used to be the up and the go-to place for snacks and hangout session places and things like that. However, this day and time, you don't hear of them anymore. They've gone under the radar, so it will be very, very weird if one person says he wants to wake up one day and then, do business with that name. It's very, very weird. So it's important that you need to be able to identify what exactly is your objective, what's the end goal for you. Do you want to be able to see how you can expand into other territories or other markets to see how you can make more profit from your investment? Do you want to see how you can just expand to solve one particular problem or the other? So it's important for us to be able to establish what strategy we want to take and address what and then cross the hurdles that exist as it is. So there are threats and opportunities that exist in the global market space. Obviously, we've talked about this before. No business or no decision comes without its own challenges. There are so many challenges that comes with it. It would be very, very weird for you to just think that you want to go into business, especially in the international market, and you're not worried about some of these challenges that would come out of it. It could be cultural challenge, it could be political challenge, it could just be what they call the pestle analysis. It could be any of those challenges that would affect you in the global market space. If you are not very, very conscious and careful about how that thing will be, it will just discourage you, demoralize you. In fact, money and investment that you have done will just cripple everything that you have done. However, like I said, there are companies or organizations and even countries that have taking a very, very intentional act to be able to get these things right. If you want to get it right, especially a business in one country that is just up and coming, and you try to expand into other countries, you really cannot do that without having somebody who is local to help you understand how some of those things work, because you can't just assume and imagine everything will work out well. Not every time things work out. Not every time things work out well, right? So you need to be very, very conscious about that. You need to be very, very conscious about political considerations. It would be very weird of you as well to just decide that you want to go into business in one country without even minding what are the policies that can come up within that particular country if there's a political shift. Once there's a political shift, how does it affect me? How does it affect my business? Things like that. It's a huge threat for some organizations who want to do business in the United States. They know that when Trump has come in like this, things have scattered. There is no way they would make there's no way that they will make money, because of the political shift from one political listen to the other, obviously, so if you are not conscious of that and then you decide to go into business, I mean, without thinking about what that risk might be, then of course you realize that you're already digging the grave of the business before you even start. So we need to be very, very careful about that. It might not even be the US. It might be other places too. You need to be conscious about what the political policies might be and how it will affect us in the long run. Same thing as cultural difference. It's very, very weird for you to not know how best to be able to address certain things. Do you know that there are certain cultural shifts? Excuse me. Do you know that there are certain cultural shifts that affect how people do business? It will be very weird for you to go to the Arab nations and then just assume that you can just sit down with anybody and just talk business and everybody goes their way. It is not done. It is not done like that. For instance, now in the US and in Europe, right? People have things like firm handshake. You want to shake somebody, want to greet somebody, you shake him well. But in other countries, if you shake them like that, they're looking at it like you are being very, very rude. Why are you shaking me like that? Why are you giving me a very strong handshake? Some prefer the light one, especially people within the Asian region, so it's important that you know these things, you know how best to be able to take advantage of it. Similar thing to say you're doing business in the what they call it now, in the Arabian countries, and then you realize that we as Nigerians and other Nigerians, we like to take things fast, which is very, very weird for some other people. Imagine you as a Nigerian now, you go to the one of the Arabian nations and they are observing their fast, and you just want to have business done quickly, and everybody seems to calm things down at that period of time, because it's a culture for them. They don't take certain things too serious at that period of time, but you need to be aware that when you're going there, you don't also want to be in a situation where they don't give you audience, they take you like somebody who is not very serious, So these are some of the things that you need to be very, very careful about. Same thing as taking like pork and other kind of business to that kind of regions. You obviously know that wouldn't be it at all, So there are certain things about body language also that we should also be familiar with, especially around cultural differences. There's this saying that you can't touch what's this thing now? There's this saying that you can't touch a Saudi prince, or something like that. If you touch him, he's looking like you've committed a taboo or something like that. So imagine you're in a space like that and you didn't know that. It's already a turn off for people who want to do business with you. You just think you can just go shake him, and for somebody who is like a multinational business owner, you might just think you want to do business with them and everybody goes their way. But eventually, if you are not aware of some of those cultural differences, you put yourself in a big issue. So these are some of the examples of some of the cultural shifts that currently exist. You read, it's very, very weird to say you want to go to a particular country and you don't even know how they do their things. It will be very, very weird for you to say you're going to a country and then you just, you know how Nigerians will be, sometimes you see somebody who you think you've spoken to in a while, you joke and play, and then you just decide to put your hands on the person's shoulder. Some other people just look at it as very, very weird. Some people not as that, so it's important that you are very, very conscious about some of these things. You understand how these things work, and then you're also not putting yourself in a very, very bad position. So look at some of these things. It is very, very important that when you're taking your complimentary card from Asian countries, you are presenting it to them in the right way. If you take that complimentary card if you're giving them a complimentary card and you're giving it to them in a different direction, they kind of look at it as very weird. And sometimes it's those small things that you do that kind of puts people off. It's important that you do that appropriately. Imagine that. Look at the second one, using soft sell. You don't need to approach certain things in a radical approach. You don't want to take things too fast, in certain people. Certain people just require that, just do your things calmly and then have your way with it. Same thing as the example I gave about Ramadan as well. Some people decide that they want to just do things slowly, things like that. Do you also know that silence, as it is also will I say, a mode of negotiation? Silence is also a mode of interacting with certain people. It's not every time that you decide to talk, because you need to be aware of some of those cultural do's and don'ts, so that you don't just put yourself in a very, very bad you don't want to put yourself in a very bad light. So it is important that we are aware of all of these things, and then we are able to put ourselves in a good light. So let's take a question. So imagine that excuse me. imagine that you're sending a manager to Germany, right, for them to go through certain things, for them to set up a branch for you outside your country. I'm throwing this question out to us. Imagine you're taking your, what's it called now? You're asking your manager to go to another country, right, to be able to set up the branch. What are some of the things you think the person should know, right? What are some of the cultural differences you think the person should be able to spot out and then establish? I'm asking this again. Imagine they're sending you one of your manager, right, to Germany. Let's say from Nigeria or from Cameroon or from Kenya. We're trying to send that person to Germany, and then we want that person to go and establish a branch for us. What are some of the things you think it's important that the manager should know? What are the things you think the person should be conscious about so that it doesn't put your business in a very, very wrong light? What are the things you think the person should be able to look out for, and then obviously try to see how it doesn't mess everything up, so to speak? So what do you think are some of the issues? What are the things that the person should be conscious about? Where are my people? Imagine I decide to send Covenant now to Germany. Covenant, so that you go and represent my company there for 1 year. What are the things that you should have at the back of your mind so that you don't end up having a wrong feedback from people? We don't eventually look like we're wasting, we've spent money and then nothing is happening. What are some of the things that the manager should look out for, and then we're able to spot out? Abigail, what are some of the things that the manager should be able to spot out, and then you're able to be aware of and not put yourself in a very bad light? What are some of the things you think is important to know so that the person doesn't put themselves as well as a company in a very wrong light? You should first know the custom and tradition of the place. Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you. Culture as language. Absolutely. So imagine somebody is going to Germany, and then in your mind, you're thinking the person will just go and be speaking English. I mean, some of them might understand English, but do you really want to do English? You want to speak English to people who actually speak German as their language? So it will be very, very weird, right? So one of the things that the person will actually even supposed to do, Rashid, is that the person will have actually, even before going to Germany, have taken one of the courses on language in Nigeria or whatever country that person is before leaving, right? Because you also don't want to go there and start sounding like somebody who is just trying to find their feet around it. Actually, in some certain instances, what some companies will even do is that when they send you out like that, it's either you take that class before you go, or you probably will take that class immediately you get there, but you are not resuming immediately, because of course, if you are managing that business there, then you obviously need to be able to speak the local language in that area, correct? You obviously need to be able to speak the language in that local area. So it's either you do it before you leave, or you do it when you get there. But one thing is certain, you must be able to speak that local language. What are some of the things, again, the manager should know? Who else? Covenant, Elizabeth, Jarius. What are some of the things that the person should be aware of? Yeah, I mean, this is an easy one. This is an easy one. Culture, right? One of it. Their language, obviously. Yeah. Their dressing as well. You need to also need to be conscious of that. What other things can there be for the manager to be conscious about? I mean, there are so many things the person should be aware of. Approach as well. Sometimes some people just prefer a certain way of or a certain approach, to certain things. Nobody expects you to be, not to understand how they do certain things there. Sometimes even down to eating, how they eat, so that you don't put yourself, and then somebody invites you for a lunch or dinner somewhere to meet with one of the MDs of one particular organization, and you now look like somebody who wants to just devour everything right in front of you without minding who is there, like that. Some people have that poor, what's it called now?
Please let's hold on while we wait for him to reconnect. It's probably his network again. Please, let's be patient.
Hello, everybody. I was out again for like a minute or so. Yeah, internet will do this to you. Internet will do this to you. All right, so let me share again. All right, so yeah, I was just speaking about hold on, where is my screen? Am I sharing? I believe I am. Okay, presentation mode. All right, so I was just speaking about some of the things that the manager should be able to put into consideration. Thank you very much for your comments. Thank you very much, Messi and Rashid, for your comments. Yeah, truly appreciate that. I mean, it goes without saying, you need to be very, very conscious of some of those things and then not put yourself in a very, very bad light. So we don't take so much time, right? Let's continue. Let's go ahead. One other thing we need to be also conscious about is the economic environment. Are we sure that if we do business with this place, it's going to boom? Are we sure that if we decide to come into this particular region to do business, there's proper infrastructure to be able to back up what we want to do? There's proper market for it. There's a proper return on investment that will come out of this entire thing, so you need to be very, very conscious about these things. We've mentioned things about the pestle in itself, the political, economic, legal, technological issues that would exist like that. So we need to be very, very conscious about those things and how it will affect them, how it will affect us. There are several organizations that currently exist right now, and then there's different what's it called now, gross national income that they have as a country. Now you realize that some countries it is easier for you to do business with them. Others, it might be very, very difficult because of some of the infrastructure, the things that they have as at today. So you need to be very, very aware of some of the economic environment and you knowing whether the business will favor you or not. If you're not very familiar about how this will be and how it will turn out, I mean, it puts you in a very, very difficult and very, very bad spot. So some of the organizations where the economy right now is top notch, I mean, is the Japan, Germany, Belgium, UK. You will realize that, I mean, they're making a lot of money when it comes to globalization, when it comes to economic international trade as it is. Other countries who have not really benefited from some of these things are countries like the Madagascar, Central African Republic, Burundi. They've not done a lot around this. And of course, it has a negative impact on their economy as it is. So countries that are actively involved in globalization, international trade, and all of this, you realize that they tend to make more. And then, of course, their per capita income now, which is like income per head of each of their, what's it called now? Income per head of each of their citizens, is within this particular range. You realize that their citizens are doing well. People are making money, things like that. Everything is booming, However, countries that are not doing well, their income per head is really, really poor. Countries like Madagascar, Burundi, Malawi, and the rest of them. So we need to be very, very conscious of how these countries are and where else to be able to where we are able to invest in and what are the things that comes out of it at the end of the day. So as students of entrepreneurship, economic students and the rest, we're supposed to be very, very active and intentional about looking at where exactly we want to invest in, what are the possible challenges that might affect us, what are the things that might put our business in a different light, what are the things we should be conscious about, so that we don't put ourselves in an unnecessary position where you now realize as if you didn't make a proper research about this particular country or this particular company before even trying to invest in. So there are so many things you need to put into consideration. Certain countries or certain businesses or companies are running away from investing in Nigeria because of some of the infrastructures that does not exist. Some of the challenges of probably say electricity, which is a huge concern for everybody. Some of the concerns also. Please confirm if you can still hear me. I just saw a notification that my internet isn't so strong.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay, thank you very much. So one of the reasons why people do not invest or are running away from investing in Nigeria, obviously, is because of the poor infrastructure that currently exists in Nigeria. We really have very poor road network. We don't have
Okay, now your internet is breaking.
very good electricity that backs some people who have left this country between the last I thought as much. Am I still
No, you're breaking, Mr. Hafiz. The internet is breaking.
at this point, if I sue these network providers, if I sue them, I don't think I'm at fault. I think I have the right to sue these people. I imagine this network has been troubling me. So I'll try to wrap up, so that we don't keep getting this experience again and again and again. I will try as much as possible to wrap up as quick as possible. Please confirm you can still hear me so that I just quickly wrap up and then
Yes, we can hear you,
we
Mr. Hafiz.
don't drag this because internet is really troubling me as it is, I might end up suing them. Let me just share my screen quickly. I try to just wrap up us within the next 10, 15 minutes. So we don't keep experiencing this. So let me put this on presentation mode. All right, thank you. Okay, so yeah, so there's always the impact of what's it called now? The impact of multinational companies or corporations in a country. There are so many impact that these people have made. In terms of ensuring that there's cross national what's it called now? Businesses that exist within more than one country. People who have provide enough of enough job excuse me, enough job opportunities for different organizations. So they have provided so many opportunities for several countries in terms of job opportunities for their for their citizens, in terms of increasing the gross domestic product of that particular region. You will agree with me that it is those businesses that happen within that period that expands the gross domestic product of a particular country. If some of those multinational corporations do not exist in your country, then there is not going to be a lot, you don't have a lot to report as your gross domestic product that exists. And that's the reason why Tinubu, as of today, president of Nigeria, is insistent of ensuring that there's a lot of
Oh, we are so sorry. I think at this point, one of us will have to start a network provider company to kick these people out. Let's give him a few minutes for him to join the call.
this is very weird. Internet has not taken me out of a class for almost 10 times before. 10 times before. Honestly, this is really, really weird. All right. Okay. So as I said, I was just going to try to just wrap up, so that we don't take so much time as well. The multinational companies obviously have a way of, influencing a country's gross domestic product. And of course, if you don't allow a lot of investors, then of course you're not making a lot. Same thing as you've been able to take advantage of some of the brands that exist. These people are actively looking at a way to position themselves in a way so that, it provides a way of establishing, what's it called now? It finds a way of establishing or representing your organization in a very good light. Right. One of the things that exists right now is that, look at, for instance, now, where the Wisconsin National Guard picked NBA Giannis Adetokunbo, which is like a Nigerian, decide to use them as the face of their brand in order to just see how they can, show how dynamic, youthful, how useful dynamic spirit can transcend cultural geographical boundaries. This is just an active method at which multinational companies like that decide to just use people who are seen in a very good light, to be able to see how they can represent their own business as it is. These days, you realize there's this I can't remember this guy's name again. There's this popular, we like call him a skip maker now, who usually makes content without speaking. I don't know I can't remember that guy's name again. I think he's from Sudan, a black man from Sudan. I think can't remember his name. He makes content without speaking. You just see him doing like this. Sometimes some brands decide to use some of those people, as long as they're able to project their as possible to see how they can take advantage of certain things, provide opportunities for people, provide opportunities for countries for them to be seen in a specific kind of light. These are some things that these people take intentionally, just to be able to see how they can gain a market share. Also seeing how.
Please, can you put your slide on
Yes.
presentation mode, please?
My internet is breaking, right?
No, presentation mode. The slides, can you put it on presentation mode, please? Can you put your slide on?
Oh, I thought my internet was breaking. Let me put it on presentation mode. Okay. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much. I thought my internet was breaking, and that was what you're trying to bring my attention onto. Okay. Yes, Kabi. Thank you very much. Thank you. That's his name. Yes, that's the person's name I was trying to remember. So some of these people take advantage of these guys to see, not advantage in a bad way. They just try to, thank you very much. They just try to, use these people because it puts their business in a particular kind of light. There are people who are friendly. They call them free-spirited. There are people who are, you just want to resonate and align with some of those people because of the kind of personality that they have. So this is an active, intentional thing that these people do. How do you think people like Jordan's got Michael Jordan to be the brand of their brand, this thing on their business? So there are certain things that these people do, just to be able to put and be able to win a particular market, and then they're able to take advantage of certain things. So here are some of the list of about, 10 or 11 large multinational corporations that exist as of today, and their different locations. There's Walmart, there's ExxonMobil. In fact, I saw this ones recently in a petroleum energy event that I went to, I think earlier this week. There are so many of them. Apple is there, and they're making a lot of money, a lot of money, from this, from being or establishing their business in different countries. And of course, as they're doing that, they are as well making money, providing job opportunities, and then of course, expanding their reach as it is. So it doesn't start like that. It doesn't just start all of a sudden. It's an active thing that people do, and then of course they take advantage of it. So multinational corporations obviously start from small companies, and then of course they expand and expand and expand, and then you see an advantage in the particular country, and then you take advantage of that. Of course, like I said, it's not easy. It's something that is not very difficult, but obviously will have its challenges. It's now how you're able to maneuver around those challenges, and then how to take advantage of some of the situations and opportunities that presents themselves in other countries. So these are some of the things that we should know as entrepreneurs, as business students, as economic students, and things like that. So let's talk about the last phase of our entire conversation, which I think I should be able to be done in the next 10 minutes, so that internet doesn't surprise me again. Some of the trends in global competitive marketplace, there are certain things that we see happening. There are certain things that we notice that are happening that was to start to wonder. we shouldn't be surprised actually when we see things like that. One is market expansion, right? One of the reasons why there is world trade, right, is because some people want to be able to expand their market. Nobody wants to remain in a particular position for a while. Nobody wants to, just be the best in one region. They want to define their market and then every other person follows. Remember when I started earlier and I said, one of the advantages that a business can have is for you to be able to define your market and be the market leader rather than being the best in the market, because you can be the best for a period of time. Another person will come and be the best. So it's best for you to be able to be the market or define the market, and then you be able to state the terms, you be able to state how other companies will emulate what you do. So, other companies are trying to expand because they've defined their market. They've seen how they want to be able to cover and get more market share. They want to be able to see how their brands can be successful in other countries. So these are some of the things that we see happening around resource acquisition as well. You realize that some people decide that, it's easier for me to be able to just manage or acquire certain resource in a particular place. I mean, since it's a global marketplace, why don't I, if I have an idea that I want to do and it will require physical manpower, why don't I go to a place where the physical manpower that I need to do my business? Okay, I realize I'm not sharing, correct? Am I still sharing? Please
Yes,
confirm
we're
if...
seeing your
Yes, you are.
Okay.
You can see your screen.
All right, thank you. I thought I wasn't sharing. All right, so like I said, resource acquisition, everybody wants to be able to take advantage of the resource that exists in a particular place. People come to Nigeria to use the Nigerian resources that are available to be able to do business. There are certain Chinese companies that currently exist in Nigeria, and then they just employ a lot of manpower because they know this is where they get them cheapest. Other people decide to do that in India because they know India also has a lot of that resource. There are other resources also that people decide to use because they know that they don't have that internally. So these are things that we see in the global space. These are things that we see happening. We realize that certain people come to a particular country because they know if they come to this place for this particular resource, they don't need to expend a lot. Imagine when somebody wants to employ a staff. I mean, if you require about 10,000 staff to do a particular job for you, and within one day, the estimated amount of money you're supposed to pay them is about $10 a day. If you multiply $10 by 1,000 staff, you know how much you're spending on paying those people off. But if you come to a country where, like Nigeria, where you can pay somebody below 1,000, below $1 in a day, to provide a particular service for you, you wouldn't want to be in a place where it would cost you more to do those things than being in a place where cost you far less, especially if it's something that you can move those items from one place to another. What you just need is the human resource available. So these are things that are happening. Same thing as the emergence of India and China. You will agree with me that the way Chinese are moving on things, technological things, it's amazing these days. China and India have moved significantly when it comes to technology. In fact, people don't even compare. People don't tag some of those technological advancements to UK and the US anymore. This right now is the Chinese, is the Indian market. Those are the people who do a lot of technological innovations. They do a lot of providing the next generation of certain devices. Everything that needs to be, you're looking for the latest, you're looking for the things that does a better service than what you currently have. The best place for you to go is the China or India. Now, it's not that the UK and US are not doing those things. It's not like the European countries are not also doing those things. But the Chinese and the Indians have found a way to be able to do those things efficiently. Now, remember, there's the efficient, there's the effective. Now, people can do those things. They can effectively produce those things. But who is doing it more efficiently, more cost efficiently? Everybody will want to come to a place where I know that I will get the same service and I don't need to pay so much. I will get even a higher technology and I don't need to pay so much. You can get the same product if you're buying a particular product. You can buy that same product in Germany, but I bet you are going to buy that product higher than what you're going to buy it in China or India. So these guys are the recent, there are some of the things that are happening. There are anything your go-to place for technological innovations, and things like that. So globally, it's important that we should be able to take advantage of some of those things, find a way to, work with some of these people, identify where the opportunity is, see how we can work with partners, see how we can invest in certain businesses, and then of course we're able to get the required or the desired result at the end of the day. This might not just be the only emergence in the global space right now. Right now, so many people are talking about even how people will take advantage of how social media has also helped some of these things in the global market space. Now, global social media also in a way has also found a way to match the market in different ways, where you're doing business with everybody in the world, trying to reach out to everybody, trying to see how you could sell your particular service from one place to the other. Now, with the advent of technology, you are able to use social media to be able to sell your product or your service. Now, imagine that we as a service providing organization now, with social media, we've been able to sell our services by promoting it on the platforms. Now, once we've promoted those services on those platforms, people then know us, right? People from maybe not even the country where we currently do business, maybe people outside the country, people in the UK, US. It's the same service that we're delivering, but we're taking advantage of using social media platforms to be able to promote what we do. Once we've promoted what we've done or what we are doing currently, we're then able to take advantage of technologies to be able to sell what we do, especially if it's a service-related thing that we're providing to that particular organization or country as it is. So there are so many things that people are actively doing right now that is currently making the difference in the market space or in the business space right now. So many things that people are doing. People are constantly innovating. The thing now is that there is no monopoly to innovation. There's really no monopoly to it. If you think you have the best thing today, trust me, give it 2 weeks. Just give it 2 weeks. You see somebody who has either thought of the same thing that you're currently doing, or somebody who has even thought of it, making it better. So some of these things are the things we should actively do and think about. And there is no better time for we as business person or entrepreneurs to be able to take advantage of certain things than now, because now is the time that you have. If you want to make any decision, if you want to do anything, it's best for you to start now, however small, and then of course you're able to grow, scale up, and then of course be able to get to the place you're looking to get to at the end of the day. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I hope this has not been a boring class. I'm hoping the internet also hasn't made everything frustrating, because that's one of the biggest challenge of today's class. We taking advantage of technology also has its own challenges as well. Trust me, I'll be one of the people who will send petitions to maybe MTN or Nine for making my internet worrisome today. Thank you very much, everybody. At this point, I think we'll talk about question and answers. Now, we're supposed to share this before now, but these are questions that I think we can easily take out. So for instance, now the first one, how would you describe the balance of trade in a country that exports more than what it imports? Abigail has answered this at some point. Lawal too has answered this at one point. But of course, let's hear what you would say. You can put your answers in the chat room. How would you describe the balance of trade of a country that exports more than it imports? Will you say it's a balance of trade or it is not a balance of trade? Now, the question is really saying, will you say it is favorable balance of trade or unfavorable balance of trade? I think this is a very easy question. How will you describe a country? How will you describe the balance of trade of a country that exports more than it exports? That exports more than it imports? Will you say they have a balanced trade, or will you say they do not? So, in other words, asking, will you say it has a favorable balance of trade or an unfavorable balance of trade? Question, guys. What would the answer be? Is it a favorable balance of trade, or is it an unfavorable balance of trade? This is a very cheap question. We talked about favorable and unfavorable. We say favorable is when you have a lot of exports and imports, and then unfavorable is when you have a lot of imports and exports. But this is me answering the questions for you. So what would you say? Is it a favorable or is it an unfavorable one? Covenant, do you want to take it? Jonathan, Abigail, Lawal, do you want to take it? Or maybe Titi Lokwe. Aha, I see it. I see it now. Thank you. Favorable. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. That was easy. That was easy. So second question says, what happens to the value of a country? Oh, okay, I've accidentally expanded my chat box. All right. So what happens to the value of a country when it lowers the value of its currency relative to other countries? This is an easy one as well. What happens to the value of a currency when it lowers the value of its currency? What happens to the value of a country, I meant to say? what happens to the value of a country when it lowers the value of its currency relative to other currencies, other countries? Is that a devaluation or an appreciation of the currency? Very easy as well. I mean, we spoke about this as well, talk about devaluation and appreciation. Thank you, Ojo. Thank you. Thank you very much. I need to move this. Let's move this. All right. What term has the opposite meaning from protectionism? What term has the opposite meaning from protectionism? Is it free trade? Is it taxation? Now, protectionism, remember I mentioned, is something when, the government try to see how they can protect their infant industries, try to see how, they don't put themselves in a very difficult position, especially when it comes to how some of the products services that they import affect their local products. So what do you think the answer is? Okay, thank you, Jairus. Unfortunately, we've jumped to the next one. Thank you, Lawa. Thank you. Thank you. So, yeah, I believe, yeah, that's the answer. Thank you very much, Tinokwe. Thank you. I mean, this is a very cheap one, too. This is a very cheap one. Thank you. Thank you. All right, so let's move on to other questions. Let's see. Okay, somebody just dropped a message. Okay, yes, thank you, Jarius, thank you, thank you. There are arguments for and against the use of tariffs. What are the most likely reason why a cattle producing country like Argentina might have a tariff on importation of beef? What they're trying to ask you is that if some countries put tariffs, why will a country like Argentina that produce beef, why will it have, that produce cattle, right? Why will it have a tariff on importation of beef? Is it to protect the sufficient supply of beef or to protect the domestic business and workers? I think this is an easy one as well. Why do you think a country like Argentina would want to put tariffs on importation of beef when they also produce beef? I mean, they have some. I mean, why do I want to answer the question? Let me hold on. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much. Of course, the answer is to be able to protect domestic businesses and workers. I mean, this is a very easy one. The United States prohibits the importation of 43 styles of automatic rifles. You know what automatic rifles are? Guns. This is an example of which of the non-tariff barriers. The United States prohibits the importation of 43 styles automatic rifles. This is an example of which of the non-tariff barriers. Now, embargoes really are something that people do in order to stop something totally, right? Sanctions are something that people do in order to see how, they put like a punishment. It's like a punishment that they do in order to see how companies or countries will, to stop countries from putting certain things to the market. So if the United States decides to put, if the United States decides to prohibit the importation of these rifles, what example of the non-tariffs do you think this is? Is it an embargo? Is it a sanction? What do you think it is? Let me come to the chat room. Embargo. Thank you very much. Thank you. Somebody saying sanction. Okay. Embargo. Okay. Any more comments? Okay, any more comments? Okay. I think I saw one. Aha, thank you, Lawal. Thank you. So, listen, right? There's a difference between the two. It's not like sanction is very similar to it. Sanction is just a general term for it. Sanction is just like saying we're punishing you for doing something. Sanction can be anything, right? Embargo is just them trying to stop it entirely. Sanction might not fully stop, but it's just to punish you. So you might be able to still bring it in, but of course, there's going to be some form of punishment that will just frustrate you. Embargo is just stopping the entire thing totally from you even bringing it in. So embargo will be the right option or answer rather. What type of trade? What new trade organization was created by the Uruguay round to replace the old general agreements on the tariffs and trade? Now we spoke about where one of these institutions out of these options was newly introduced. Now, which of these two institutions was introduced during the Uruguay round? Which of these two institutions? Is it the ITF or is it the WTO? Which of these institutions was introduced during the Uruguay round. I mean, I mentioned this. I said one of these institutions was introduced, just to be able to mediate and manage how some of these things are done within that particular region. This is an easy one as well. It's an easy one. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. I see somebody's comments too. Yeah. Rick, thank you. Thank you very much for that. Thank you. Thank you. It's not going to not the ITF, not the ITF. It was the World Trade Organization. It was so before the World Trade Organization, something was actually in existence, right? And that's what the GATT, which is GATT, right? That was actually in existence before. But when they realized that they needed something that would be more, more encompassing, something that will cover for the entire world to be able to provide free free tariffs and free trade between countries. The World Trade Organization was then established, and then to be able to manage all of those things end to end. All right, thank you very much. Thank you for your comments. Let's move to the questions. Next questions. Okay, these are two international financial organizations that are instrumental in fostering. I need to move this. List the two international financial institutions that are instrumental in fostering global trade. Is it the World Bank and International Monetary Fund? Is it the International Monetary Fund and ITF? Right, we'll discuss this as well. These are two international financial institutions. I mean, we spoke more about two particular ones, so I believe this should be an easy answer as well. Everybody's going for it. Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. Yeah, you're right. All right. Thank you very much. Now, companies can use several methods to participate in the global market space. To which method is franchising most closely related? Which of these options is franchising most closely related? Leasing is when you're giving space out, right? 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 Or you're giving something for hire or something, licensing now permits you to use something for a particular period of time. So which one is it the most? Option B. I mean, that's very easy. That's very easy. That's very easy. Okay. All right. So the last one now, in order to show a commercial in South Korean television, a company like Gillette must film the commercial using Korean actors. What political consideration is most likely responsible for this legal requirement? In order to show a commercial in South Korea, right, a company like Gillette must film the commercial using South Korean actors. What political consideration is most likely responsible for this legal requirement? Is it nationalism? Is it patriotism? What do you think it is? Because there are certain there are certain countries that require that, for you to be able to use, for you to be able to do any commercial, you must use our national people. You must use our people to be able to promote that. You remember when I was also giving instances of people who are coming into your own country to promote one thing or the other, or for them to be able to do business in your country. One of the things that they want to use, they have to use your national people to be able to do provide that particular service. Sometimes they will even have to draft out some what they call that some agreement that you need to give about 70% of the internal staff the opportunity to be able to do business with you, or you also need to give some percentage of your internal, staff population, to be able to participate or to gain job opportunities there. Sometimes even the management team has to be a combination of your foreign people as well as even locals as well. So yeah, let me go to the chat room to see what's there. Thank you. Nationalism, absolutely. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe. Thank you. Covenant, thank you, Rick. I mean, thank you. That was really easy. Sometimes people might not get that as well. So all right, so thank you very much, everybody, for that brilliant answer. So these are assignments for us. What are the several ways a company can enter into international trade? I mean, we've discussed this as well. There are so many methods at which somebody or a person, an organization, or even a country can enter international trade. Explain the concept of counter trade. I mean, we talked about what counter trade is, how people, I mean, I don't want to be answering the questions for you, but of course, you will have to answer the questions and as it's an assignment, but we've talked about counter trade and how people would need to use one thing for another, without collecting blah, blah, blah. I mean, I'm not going to answer that for you as well. Explain how political factors can affect international trade. Of course, we've talked about, in fact, we've given instances of a particular country and how yeah, the political shift of one particular country affected the business of another. We've talked about this as well. Describe several factors, cultural factors that a company involved in international trade should consider. We've talked about this as well. What are some of the cultural factors that a company should be able to be aware of before going into international trade? There are so many things you need to be considerate about. So many. Your kind of business, your kind of this, your kind of that. I mean, I can't begin to answer that question for you. How can economic conditions affect trade opportunities? How do you think the economic conditions of one country can affect trade opportunities? Do you think if somebody's noticed that the country is not doing well, they will want to invest in it? I don't think so. Do you think so? I don't think so. So how can the economic conditions affect trade opportunities? If people realize that your economic condition is booming, I mean, of course, who wouldn't want to take a piece of that? Everybody will want to invest. Everybody will want to take advantage. I mean, the good thing about Africa is Africa has the market for most of these people, most of these multinational companies. They have the market. They can always take advantage of it, But I leave you to answer that question and send it via email. You can send the assignments to all of this here, and of course, I'm sure that proper information will be sent across. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's it for me. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for listening to my class. And of course, if you have questions, please do not hesitate. Please let me know, and then we're happy to answer that. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Questions. Questions. Questions.
Thank you, Mr. If you have any question, please type it out in the chat room.
Questions. Thank you very much, Ojo Christian. Of course, you guys have also been very very interactive as well. It's been an interactive one. Thank you very much. All right, at this point, I mean, I want to assume there is no question for now. Thank you very much, everybody. Once again, I hand over to the team now. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much, Mr. Hafiz. That was really, really great. The assignments and every other information will pass to us in the chat room, the WhatsApp group, and the Telegram group. If you're not on the Telegram group, please do well to do that. You can check for the link on WhatsApp and please join the Telegram group. Thank you so much for joining us. Anything else, like I said, will be passed on the Telegram chat room.
All right. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. Thank you so much, Hafiz, for a wonderful session. I really enjoyed every bit of it. So in addition to what Emmanuel just said, the Telegram group link has been sent to each of your WhatsApp platform. So please do well to migrate to the Telegram group. The reason for this is because our WhatsApp group has reached its limit. So Telegram has a larger limit. So that's why we are migrating to Telegram. So every inquiries you have will be, everything that we need to say will be sent to the Telegram group from next week. So please, if you are yet to do that, go ahead and do so. Emmanuel, please help me drop the attendance link. Someone is asking for it on the group. All right, thank you. So for further inquiries, you can do well to chat us on this number that is on the chat room. Feel free to chat or make your calls, okay? Thank you so much. And if you are still on this call and you are yet to follow us on all of our social media handles, we implore you to do so. On Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, X, engage on our posts, like our our posts, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We need your engagement. Okay? Thank you so much, everyone. If we have any other thing, any other announcement is going to be passed across to every one of you. Thank you so much, and do have a very beautiful weekend. Happy New Month to you all once again. Bye for now.
Yes, thank you so much, Miss Mercy, and have a great weekend, everybody. Please don't forget to join the Telegram group. By the end of the week, nothing will be posted on the WhatsApp group anymore. So please do well to join the Telegram group.